Dorothy Kavanaugh is suing her son's ex-girlfriend, Stephanie Klein, for the return of a poker table and for making false charges to Child Protective Services.
All rise. Now, this is case number 212 on the calendar in the matter of Kavanaugh versus Klein.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Kavanaugh, the defendant and your son were in a long-term relationship, although I don't see here that they were ever married. Is that true? Not married?
No, we weren't.
But you have 3 children together?
Yes, we do.
So how long did this relationship last?
Lasted 16 years.
Just for my own curiosity, is there any reason why you chose not to marry?
I don't really believe in marriage. I'm too afraid to get married. Divorce is too expensive.
Your claim is that Miss Klein has some property that belongs to you.
Yes, she does.
In her home.
Yes.
After, of course, your son left. You want it back. And you also claim that Miss Klein made false charges to the Child Protective Services Agency about you, causing you severe stress. Miss Klein says she did not make those calls to Child Protective Services. She knows who did.
Yeah.
She says her girls did.
My girls did, and also Cassie and Christy, who are her witnesses.
And
they did it at their house.
And she said they found things that were troublesome to them. As far as the property is concerned, she says the property is hers. The property we're talking about is a pool table, is that right?
No, it's a poker
table.
card table or coffee table.
Okay. According to what you said, Ms. Kavanaugh, in your complaint, you gave this poker table, this table, to your son as a gift.
I lent it to him.
No, that's not what you said. You said you gave it to your son as a gift. You want me to read you what you wrote?
No, that's fine.
Just, I know that you dispute that. I had given my son a custom-built poker table for his birthday.
Correct.
So let's deal with the poker table because that makes my life very easy. You have no interest whatsoever in the poker table.
Okay.
Got it? Once you give a gift, the gift is gone. And I don't see your son here. If he wants the poker table back, and if it's his, it's certainly not marital property because these people weren't married. So if he wants the poker table back, he can have it. But you can't because it doesn't belong to you. It would be like birds suing for the poker table. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Let's get to the allegations of abuse and or neglect that were made to Child Protective Services. When did your son and the defendant separate?
February, she threw him out.
Were you working during the 16 years you lived together?
Yes, I was. I was basically the only one working in the relationship.
What were you doing?
I managed 2 bowling centers.
And who took care of the children?
Anthony usually did, and Dorothy.
What kind of work does Anthony do?
He worked on cars on the side.
No steady job?
No.
Why doesn't your son have a steady job?
He did have a steady job. He worked at the garage. It was in his name. He did have a steady job. He had his own garage at 25.
You mean for the 16 years that they lived together?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he file tax returns on that?
No, he did not.
Well, if he had his own business and if he was making money, then that's a very serious crime that he committed by not filing tax returns for 16 years. Here he's got his mother swearing under oath that he had his own business.
He did on the side.
Hmm?
He did on the side, yes.
What do you mean on the side? On the side is something that you do when you have a full-time job elsewhere.
True.
Ms. Kavanaugh.
True.
On the side is not what you do when you have 3 children.
That's true. I agree with that.
Where is he?
He's working right now.
Doing what?
He works for Twin City Transmission.
What happened to his garage?
It was closed down after Stephanie and him got into trouble and separated.
Due to his alcohol and drug problem. He's on probation right now. And that's why he had to leave the home, because I did not want that around my kids. It took me a long time, but I was a victim of domestic violence until I got strong enough to do it on my own.
Fine. Well, he's certainly not here supporting his mother.
Or his children.
What makes you think that the defendant called Child Protective Services?
Because of the paperwork that I have and the statements that they made.
I'd like to see it.
Oh, okay.
No, don't give me all this paperwork, Ms. Kavanaugh. I want you to show me where in this paperwork it says that a call was made to this Child Protective Services by Miss Klein.
Oh, they don't do that.
Well, so what I want you to tell me is you direct my attention to somewhere in this stack of papers to evidence that Miss Klein call Child Protective Services.
Then it would have to come from my witness who told me that.
Fine. Who's the witness? That would be you. Stand up. Who are you?
Christy.
How are you related to these people?
That's my grandma.
But that's not your mother, so you have different parents.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do you live, Christy?
Down the street from her. And
Down the street from your grandmother. Who do you live with?
my mom.
Now tell me what you know about Miss Klein calling Child Protective Services.
Her oldest daughter did.
Well, her oldest daughter is not her. Christy, listen to me very carefully. Do you know anything about Miss Klein calling Child Protective Services?
No.
Sit down. Do you have any other witnesses, Miss Kavanaugh?
I have Cassandra.
Be very careful if you're going to stand up here. Do you understand me?
Yes.
Stand up. Do you have any evidence that Miss Klein called Child Protective Services?
No, ma'am.
That was being good and careful. Yes, Miss Kavanaugh.
Okay, there's also a countersuit from Stephanie that I called.
I haven't gotten to the countersuit yet.
Okay. Well,
Do you have any other evidence that Miss Klein called Child Protective Services about your care of your children or grandchildren?
other than the piece of paper here that states that they investigated both her and I, which is
That's why I called him myself.
my name, Stephanie, and all three children. It
So
states
the
that it
answer
was
is you have
unfounded.
listen to me. So the answer is you have no evidence that it was Miss Klein who called Child Protective
No,
Services.
I cannot prove it was
So
her.
your case
No.
is dismissed in its entirety. The poker table doesn't belong to you, and you have no proof whatsoever that Miss Klein called Child Protective Services. So I don't even have to get into the fact that if she called them, whether what she said was true. Now I'll get to the counterclaim.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And when people use that child protective hotline for other reasons, it infuriates me. And if it was my world, they'd be in jail.
And later today,
If you happen to be built like you are, you have to use your strength and your girth wisely, sir. Yes, ma'am. Not like an idiot.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dorothy Kavanaugh says her son's ex-girlfriend, Stephanie Klein, made false charges to Child Protective Services. Stephanie is countersuing, claiming Dorothy's actions caused her to be fired.
Your counterclaim is that Ms. Kavanaugh called Child Protective Services with regard to you, your care of the children, and because of her harassment, you lost your job. I'd like to hear it.
I can't prove that she called, but
Then if you can't prove
Yeah,
that she
that's-
called, then you have
that
no
I
case.
I'm not positive that she called. Kids were visited because of it, in which they stated that
You
Dorothy.
can't tell me what they stated. Not necessary. I don't have to reach that threshold
Okay.
question because neither of you has any proof that the other was responsible for calling Child Protective Services.
That's part of
Let
my
me deal
case.
with Child Protective Services, these calls back and forth, whomever they came from. Calling Child Protective Services is like calling 911. You call 911 when there is some emergency, when you feel as if somebody is being threatened, when you feel if somebody is being placed at risk. And I'm not saying that those things weren't the case with these allegations that were made by whomever they were made. But it should be a felony in every jurisdiction, a very serious crime, for people to use calls to Child Protective Services in order to either incite or resolve or for retaliation or for retribution about some other issue because they have limited enough resources at Child Protective Services to investigate real allegations of neglect and abuse. And when people use that Child Protective hotline for other reasons, it infuriates me. And if it was my world, they'd be in jail if that's what they're using the hotline for. Having said that, we will move on to the next cause of action in your counterclaim, which is that Ms. Kavanaugh caused you to lose your job.
Yes, I had her as a sitter, also her son, who would drop the kids off to her even after I asked not to. She would get upset with them, drop them off at my work several times. She would drop them off at home unsupervised. She'd have them sitting on the porch in the middle of winter. She once set Jordan on the porch in the middle of winter with just a towel on because she didn't want to shower with her 10-year-old grandson, and she was 11 going through puberty at the time, which is disgusting.
Ms. Klein, listen to me. If what you're telling me is that because she wasn't a good babysitter, that caused you lots of stress,
Yes.
put your hand down. And you ultimately didn't show up for work, and it caused you to lose your job, you have options. Your option is get rid of her as a babysitter.
I then did, and
Then you can't sue her.
And
I mean,
got
that's your
Chrissy.
option.
Well, she called my work, harassing my boss, calling the cops on him. I got the letter for that.
Well, just 1 second. Is your boss here?
No, but I have a letter stated to me why I was fired and a
I'd like to see the
complaint from the Tonawanda Police Department.
I'd just like to see the letter first. Okay. Can I see the report to the police department? Did you at any time have her son arrested for anything? She says yes.
He used to
for
be-
what?
Harassment.
Well, he probably was harassing her because he's a drug addict. That's what she says. Is that true? Put your hand down. Is that true?
Not anymore.
I don't care if it's not anymore. You mean not today?
Not today, but she also is.
Listen, who's taking care of the 3 children? Who's taking care of the 3 children?
At the moment,
Yes.
a girl who had their children taken away from them, so I
Who do
heard.
the 3 children live with? I'm not talking about at this moment.
they live
while
with the
she's here.
mother.
They live with the mother, not with your son.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay. So, when did you have him arrested?
Actually, I had him arrested once, a couple times. I had to have him removed from the house because he would come in when we were sleeping. He broke in when we weren't home. Slept in my bed when I went away.
These sources are 2006. Anything
Yeah.
happened in 2007 that's been harassment?
No.
Okay.
I was afraid to do it. She's evil and very vindictive.
What do you want?
We both filed harassment against each other.
Well, I don't know why you should have anything to do with her except positive things with regard to your grandchildren, Miss Kavanaugh. You
I
have a
took
son
her-
that's problematic.
I took her
You
to
have,
court.
listen to me.
Yes.
Carefully.
Yes.
You have a son who's a problem.
Yes.
You have the mother of your grandchildren who has been supporting the family for 16 years because your son is a bum. There's no question that he's a bum because there's no question that they had to file tax returns because she worked for a company that wouldn't have paid her under the table. That your son, if he was working at all, which I somehow doubt, certainly has not filed tax returns and has not paid his fair share of our expenses as a community.
He was paying child support.
Well, what do you want me to do? Give him a gold medal for that? He made children. That's what he's supposed to do.
Yes.
Put your hand down. He's supposed to pay child support.
Yes.
A lot, not a little.
Right.
So if I wanted to be supportive, I would be as supportive as possible if you were a reasonable grandparent of my 3 grandchildren and said to my son, listen, I tried my best with you. Maybe my best wasn't good enough, but I'm certainly not going to annoy the mother of my grandchildren who's trying to keep it together. Do you get my drift?
She wasn't
That's
trying to keep it together.
Do you get my drift?
I understand you, yes.
Perfect. And I wouldn't sue her for a stupid card table because that's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Goodbye. Your case is dismissed, as is your counterclaim.
Parties are excused. You may step out, ma'am.
Because she's a wacko.
Just to hurt me even worse.
Drinking and drugs.
I wouldn't be able to afford my mortgage or my house
Both her and my son were the same.
if I was doing drugs, nor will I be able to care for 3 children.
That the mother gets treatment for her drinking.
She does that with any one of her kids that separate from their girlfriends.
Well, I would imagine eventually somebody will catch up with her and take those children away from her.
That's what she does. She has nothing better to do than sit on her butt, smoke cigarettes, and make everyone's life a living.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Bolin versus Juarez, step forward.
26-year-old Christopher Bolin is suing fellow partygoer, 18-year-old Michael Juarez, for denting his car during a fight. Michael claims the damage is not his fault.
Mr. Bolin, it is your claim that Mr. Juarez, during an argument at a party, threw someone into your car and damaged it. And Mr. Juarez says he didn't do that.
Yes.
When was the party?
May 29th of 07.
Questions are going to get harder, Mr. Bolin.
No, I'm sorry.
Who, what, when, where, and how? Those are the questions you should always come prepared to answer.
All right.
All right? Yeah. What date was the party?
May 29th of 07.
Who was there?
There was a lot of people there.
In whose house was the party being held?
It was at a friend's house down the way from my house. I don't even know the person, actually.
Who knows the person?
All I know his name is Ryan.
Who did you have a fight with?
I had a fight with him right there. I don't know his name.
With you?
Richard.
With Richard?
Yes.
What'd you have a fight with Richard about?
It was because at the end of the party, my phone was missing, and I was trying to look for it. And I went around asking everybody, and when I went to go ask him, we had a confrontation, and then we started fighting. It was a quick, 2-minute fight, didn't last so long.
Why did you fight with him?
Because we started arguing, because I wanted to see if he had my phone. And we started arguing, and...
No, explain that to me. Mr. Juarez, your phone was missing. You asked to see his phone. What did he say?
He said no.
Yeah.
No, that's not right.
Shh, just a second.
He
So,
said no for a minute, and then he finally showed it, and it was dark. It looked like my phone. I wanted to see it. He wouldn't let me see it. And he said, and we started getting into it.
what do you mean you started to get into it? You started to get into it.
Yeah.
You accused him of stealing your phone.
Yeah, because I was missing my phone.
I'm speaking.
I'm sorry.
Did it turn out that he stole your phone?
No.
Where was your phone?
In the car.
So you made a mistake.
Yes, I did.
So you had this fight over something stupid where you made a mistake. And you started to act physical with somebody who says, don't accuse me of being a thief. Isn't that what happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, tell me about throwing somebody into a car.
I pushed him.
And he fell into a car.
Yes.
So whose fault is that? Mine?
No.
Whose fault is it?
All right.
Whose fault is it?
I just pushed him. I didn't mean to him go in the car.
Is there something wrong with you? Who is this person here?
That's my mom and my aunt.
You don't want to embarrass yourself any further in front of your mother.
No.
Whose fault is it if you pushed him and he fell into his car?
I pushed him. I didn't mean for him to fall in the car.
Your Honor, he didn't actually...
Jump! Do I look as if I need any of your help?
No, I'm sorry.
You want to have a talk with him. Is your last name Juarez?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
I'm going to give you 30 seconds or less to talk to your son. Right up there.
It's your phone.
Now your mother's going to sit down.
Yes.
Whose fault is it, do you think, that his car got damaged?
I pushed the man, but I don't think it's my fault because how big I am and how big he is, it'll take a lot of force for him to make a dent in the car. And if it made a dent, it would have gave injury to the man. And I'll be right here getting sued by him. That's why I feel
Whatever
it's not
it
my
was,
fault.
it didn't work, Mrs. Juarez. Could I please see the pictures of your car?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
18.
What do you do?
I'm a student, AVC.
Stay there. Perhaps forever. Go for continuing education. You have an estimate.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the estimate?
From Scorty's Auto Collision.
What is the
Oh,
estimate?
for
Not from
$9.95.
whom? Who, what, when?
Sorry,
where?
$995.
Mr. Juarez, you did the wrong thing. You made a mistake. You accused somebody of being a thief. When they chose not to play along with you, you started an argument. Your argument resulted in this young man's car being damaged by you, because when you pushed him, the natural consequence of your pushing him was him falling into the car. Now, you didn't intend to damage the car. You intended to damage him. Unfortunately, the car got damaged. You're just lucky he didn't get damaged as well, because then I would have wiped up the floor with you. And so would the police department. If you happen to be built like you are, you have to use your strength and your girth wisely, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Not like an idiot.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $995. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
26-year-old factory worker Bree Berry is suing her ex-boyfriend, 28-year-old waiter John Hayden Jr., for totaling her car. Bree says John is a con artist.
Yeah, this is case number 26 on the calendar in the matter of Berry versus Hayden Jr. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Berry, Mr. Hayden was your live-in boyfriend until
Yes,
a while
ma'am.
back, and according to your complaint, he took your car without permission one day, drove it. You don't know what happened, but he says he fell asleep at the wheel and he totaled your car. You want the value of that car because you say you were forced to purchase another car, and your monthly payments have, of course, increased as a result of purchasing the new car.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hayden says that he had an agreement with you.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right?
Yes.
And that he doesn't owe you anything for the new car. So he's going to tell me all about that agreement in a moment, and I am anxiously awaiting to hear the details of it.
Me too.
Good. We'll all wait together. When did you live with Mr. Hayden, Miss Berry?
I lived with them for about 3 months from at the end of December until about the end of February.
Had you known him for a while before he moved in with you?
We used to go to high school together.
What prompted you to move in together?
I was conned into it. John is a very good con artist.
How were you conned into it?
He figured that we could help each other out by, he didn't have anywhere to stay at that time, and he was working and that he could help me with my bills, and that's not how it happened.
So he moved into your apartment?
Yes, ma'am, just like that. Conned his way right in.
When did he take your car and total it?
It was on February 11th.
Tell me about that, Mr. Hayden.
Well, I did have permission to drive the car. I drove the
Your
car.
Honor.
I had my own set of keys. I drove the car on several occasions. And
Okay, tell me about February 11th, sir.
February 11th, I woke up like I normally did and went to my where I have to go.
Just a sec. Oh, listen to me. February 11th, Judge, I woke up at...
Judge, I woke up...
No, look at me here.
I woke up around 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
And you got out of bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me.
I don't want to hear you yet. He's talking. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You got out of...
I got out of bed.
And who was in bed with you? Look at me. Eyes.
The plaintiff.
Are you sure? Don't speak. Remember what day of the week it was, sir?
It was probably around the end of the week.
Are you sure about that?
As sure as I can be.
What do you mean as sure as you can be? Because, Mr. Hayden, I assume you work, right?
I did work until probably 2 weeks ago.
Fine. You were working on February 11th because
Yes.
you started to say to me before, I got up my usual time and I was going to do usual things, so I assume you got up 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning because you were going to...
To my rehabilitation.
What kind of rehabilitation, sir? Is not an answer.
Well, I'd rather not go into it.
Well, you have to tell me, sir, what you were doing, because I'm going to ask you specific questions, and I don't give a rat's behind what you prefer not to go into. Put your hand down.
I was going to get my treatment for my methadone.
Okay, so you were going to your methadone program.
Yes.
I've heard that before, sir. You know, I've been a judge for a long time. You have a morning methadone program?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And where had you been the night before, sir?
At home.
All night?
Yes, ma'am.
So you got up 6 or 7 o'clock to go and get your methadone at the program. And you were, in fact, working. So where were you working?
At Uno's Pizzeria on Beachmont Avenue.
What time do they open?
Around 11 o'clock.
What time do you do at your methadone program?
Anywhere between 6 and...
Look at my eyes.
10.
So what were you doing getting up at 6 o'clock, sir, when you didn't have to be at the pizza place until 11?
Because sometimes I go in early so I can get a few extra hours in.
Good. So you were being conscientious.
Yes, I worked 3 doubles a week plus the other days that I worked. I worked 6 days a week. 3 of them were doubles and 3 of them were regular days.
All right. So you got up between 6 and 7. And you had your own set of keys to the car. You got into the car. And what happened, Mr. Hayden?
I was traveling on my way to the clinic, and I fell asleep at the wheel.
Well, according to you, you'd been home the whole night before. Well, how come you fell asleep at the wheel?
Well, not real sure. I've had problems in the past with driving, falling asleep.
How many times in the past have you had problems driving?
Well, I've never actually wrecked from it, but, you know, I've had several close calls.
And when was that?
Years past.
Not when you were with Miss Berry?
No.
Did you ever tell Miss Berry before she gave you permission to use the car according to you and give you your own set of keys to the car that you've had near misses with falling asleep at the wheel?
I'm sure she was aware.
No, I didn't ask you that question, Mr. Hayden. And I want you to trust me, sir. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst day. Did you ever tell her that you had near misses of falling asleep at the wheel of a car?
I'm not sure.
Good, that's an answer. Did he ever tell you that?
No, ma'am.
Of course not. Now, was this Miss Berry's only means of transportation, or did she have a garage full of cars?
She had 2 vehicles.
Tell me about the 2 vehicles that she had.
One was a Taurus and the Civic.
And which car were you driving?
The Civic.
Is that the car you were driving, the Taurus?
No, ma'am. That I had a 95 Taurus that had been broken down for a couple months. My only means of transportation was the Honda Civic.
Okay, Miss Berry, tell me about the 10th of February, which was the day before this incident happened.
The 10th of February, ma'am, I was getting tired of being in this little relationship with John because he wasn't working like he said he was. And I had asked him that, you know, pretty soon you need to find somewhere to go. You need to, you know, go live off somebody else. So he had called me from work and asked me to come home so that we could talk about it. And when I got home, about 11 or 12, and John was already drunk and nodding out, because that's one thing that I couldn't stand about him, is that he would always nod out, and he's burnt my furniture and the floor. So anyways, he slept on the couch that night. I slept in the bed. I woke up the next morning. My keys are gone. I always leave my purse next to my bed. I always take my purse everywhere I go. The keys were gone. I got a phone call about 11 from an officer stating that John Hayden was in the hospital, that he had totaled my car. So I called down to the hospital, and John just acted like everything would be all right, that he totaled my car.
So what you're saying is he had driven your car before. There's no question about that. Is that right?
Yes, but he did not have an extra set of keys.
But he had driven your car before, with your permission.
Not with my permission. I would get up in the morning and he would take it.
Well, then what you have to do is you change the locks and you put him out of your house.
That's too much.
Shh. You change the locks, you put him out of your house if he's stealing your car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
And later today,
for her receipts that day, there were 18 meals that there were no drinks charged on.
She said she forgot.
Right, but 180 times, she didn't forget to take her tips home.
Right.
She forgot to charge for sodas.
Maybe she's just lazy.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bree Berry says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Now there is something that you're going to tell me that would suggest that you had an agreement with her with regard to a new car. So why don't you tell me about that?
After the car was totaled, we agreed that if she was able to get a new car, with which she had no job except for about 2 or 3 weeks.
That's a lie.
So
it doesn't matter if I work or not.
Miss Berry, what part of don't speak don't you understand?
I'm sorry.
When you're on welfare, you can barely...
Oh, my...
I'm not asking you what she did. I'm asking you what your agreement was.
You can barely make your rent anyway. If it wasn't for me co-signing, she could have never got the car to begin with.
My mama...
Miss Berry, if you open your mouth again, I'm going to dismiss your claim. You don't want that, do you?
No,
and I'm serious, you know. I don't say things and then take it back. Do you understand?
I understand.
Well, I want you to tell me the conversation that you had with Miss Berry, sir, with regard to your co-signing a loan for her.
I said, you put down the money you have as a down payment, and then I'll put down what I have, and if they let it go through with both of us being, with me being the co-signer, then you will have your car, and you will go from there.
Did she own the Civic free and clear?
I do not know.
As far as you know, she wasn't making payments because according to you, Miss Berry was on welfare. She could hardly make the rent.
Exactly.
So she wasn't making car payments. So what you're telling me is she took whatever little money she had, and you put in money. And how much money did you put in?
Probably $100.
And you put in $100. And then you co-signed a loan for her so that she could buy a new used car.
Yes.
And how much was the loan for?
About $8,000.
So what you're telling me is because you totaled her car, you obligated her to pay $8,000 for a vehicle to do whatever she had to do. Is that what you're telling me?
No.
Then tell me what you're telling me, Mr. Hayden. I'm listening.
I would have been more than happy to stay there with her and be, and help her make her car payments, but she cheated on me. When I called her before I came home because I couldn't get a hold of her one day, and she said, well, an ex-boyfriend of mine spent the night tonight, and I don't want you to come here trying to cause any problems. Granted, this is where I was living, paying bills, giving her money. I make about $500 or $600 a week, and, I just would give her money.
If you had, sir, $500 or $600 a week, why don't you get your own car?
Because I don't have a license.
So, Mr. Hayden, so you took her car and drove her car without a license?
I didn't know that at the time. I have an $80 reinstatement fee to pay, which I'm going through now.
Mr. Hayden, you got more stories than Damon Runyon. The fact that you tell me that I gave her $100 towards the car, did he give you $100 towards the car? No, of course he didn't.
Oh, you're right.
I couldn't even pay.
Of course he didn't.
I had to pay for...
Shh. What year car was this?
A 93.
Do you have the blue book value of it?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Would you like to see all the evidence or just that?
I'd like to see whatever you have, Miss Berry.
And I don't live in Section 8.
You move people in and out all the time.
Oh, goodness.
Ooh, this looks like some bad accident. What did you hit?
A telephone pole. And, you know, she didn't call to see if I was okay. She called to see if her car was okay.
That should have told you something,
Yeah,
Mr.
it
Hayden.
did.
Should have.
Yeah, she's self-centered, and karma will get her.
Car was more important than you were.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the way it's always been with, you know, that's what her psychiatrist tells her.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today.
So you look at that face and you see what?
I see charming, sweet, lovely Amanda.
But when you look at that face, you say she's a thief.
Not looking at the face, but looking at the proof, I believe she's running a little scam on me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bree Berry says ex-boyfriend John Hayden Jr. totaled her car. John says he fell asleep at the wheel on his way to a methadone clinic.
Mr. Hayden, let me tell you something. I don't find necessarily that the plaintiff's behavior is appropriate. I am assuming that you are now involved with somebody else?
Yes, ma'am. I was
Just
with drug use.
No, listen to me. I assume at least in part it was because of somebody else. Part of it may be because of his continued drug use, according to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever. That is not a testament to your good judgment.
It's a bad judgment I made.
No, very bad. And I don't care whether you're exercising bad judgment if you're the only one involved, but you have a 5-year-old child. And you don't move somebody into your house for 1 hour who you claim is getting his methadone, but using in addition to that.
That's why I got rid of him.
Just a second. That's not true, madam, because according to you, after he came out of the hospital, you allowed him to move back into your home for a month. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And you don't do that if you're a responsible parent of a 5-year-old. You understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
She's not a responsible parent.
No, and you're a model citizen.
More than her.
Okay.
At least I just use, I don't sell.
That may be, sir, but you still owe her $2,500 for the car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500.
Parties are excused.
Step out.
You may step
Bird,
out.
he can have his water later, please.
John Hayden is a good con artist.
I could really care less.
Anybody that John owes money to,
She's wrong.
you should take him on the Judge Judy show
Bree's a liar.
so you can get your money also.
This is over.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McGinnis versus Carter. Step forward, please.
Restaurant owner Michael McGinnis is suing his former employee, 20-year-old student Amanda Carter, for stealing 180 sodas.
Mr. McGinnis, you own a restaurant, and the defendant was an employee of yours. She worked as a waitress. Your complaint is rather unique, sir. It is your claim that while she was employed by you, when she wrote out checks, she did not charge customers for sodas. According to you, based upon your calculations, approximately 180 sodas were not charged because you believe that it's impossible for people to have ordered that many meals without ordering a drink. And therefore, you claim that Ms. Carter stole from you and you want her to reimburse you in the amount of $315. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you start to work for Mr. McGinnis, Ms. Carter?
The beginning of December.
And how long did you work for him?
I worked for him for 4 months.
What kind of restaurant is it?
It's a sports bar.
Is this your first job as a waitress?
No, it's not.
How old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
All right. So, Mr. McGinnis, tell me what makes you think that Miss Carter stole from you.
My wife and I, Your Honor, went to a food show. We returned from the food show, and my wife checked receipts. And for her receipts that day, there were 18 meals that there were no drinks charged on.
Okay.
So the day before that, there were no drinks charged that day. But our policy is all meals, you charge drinks. I asked Amanda, why were there no drinks charged on the meals? And her reply was, I forgot.
She forgot to charge them.
She forgot to charge them.
Okay.
But the only thing that the server can get to themselves are sodas, chips and salsa. Everything else they have to order through the screen. But I just can't believe, Your Honor, that individuals are choking down cheeseburgers and nachos and burritos without drinking anything.
Well, she already told you. She said she forgot.
She forgot to charge.
Yeah, that's what she said. She said she forgot.
Right. But 180 times, she didn't forget to take her tips home. She didn't forget to pick up her check.
Right.
She forgot to charge for sodas, time after time.
When you do a check, how is the bill generated?
It's generated without the drink.
So the cost of the food itself comes off a computer.
Yes.
And then the server has to take an additional step before they add up the bill and add on 4 drinks,
Yes.
and then you total it.
Yes, Your Honor.
So she said to you, I forgot.
Yes.
And she's just lazy. Well, what do you think she was doing? You think she was serving these drinks and drinking them all herself?
No, Your Honor. I believe that she was serving the drinks and possibly telling the patron that she was buying the drinks for them in order to get a better tip.
That's a possibility. It's also a possibility she forgot, right?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
It's also, well, it's a possibility. It's just as possible as the scenario that you proposed, that she told all these 18 people on one day, I'm not charging you for drinks, you can add it to my tip, right?
Yes.
It's just as possible as that. You would prefer that I believe she's a thief.
Yes, I believe so.
So you look at that face and you see why?
I see charming, sweet, lovely
Yeah.
Amanda, very personable.
No, I'm asking you, but when you look at that face, you say she's a thief.
Well, not looking at the face, but looking at the proof, I believe she's running a little scam on me.
You didn't charge for the drinks, Amanda. How come you didn't charge for the drinks?
I didn't charge for the drinks because they simply weren't ordered. The bar area is first when you come into the restaurant, and many people came into the bar and bought their beer and their mixed drinks and such and purchased them from the bartenders and then made their way into the dining area where there are TVs where people like to come in and watch sports.
All right, but it's also possible, Amanda, that occasionally you let slip by.
Oh, yeah,
certain drinks
definitely.
and didn't put it on the bill, right?
Yeah.
So that's a possibility.
Very big possibility, yes.
Do you ever tell people, listen, I'm not going to charge you for the sodas, so you could add it to my tip?
No, I've never done that.
Now, I can understand. You said to me, Amanda served those drinks, and she got the money for it and pocketed the money, and therefore she's a thief. But you're not saying that. You're saying that you choose to believe that instead of being forgetful, stupid, you know, she's a criminal, a thief. She stole money from you. And I don't buy that, Mr. McGinnis. I think that that's a very nasty thing to think about. What is? Are you on medication?
Am I on my medication?
Are
Your
you
Honor?
on any medication, sir? I'm wondering why you've got this grin on your face that seemed plastered onto your face. Case is dismissed, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
22-year-old business owner William Joe Schwartfeger is suing his ex-girlfriend's father, truck driver Warren Day, for a false restraining order. Warren says he was trying to keep William away from his 16-year-old daughter, and he is countersuing for his legal fees.
Quiet to the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 70 on the calendar in the matter of Schwartfeger versus Day. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Schwartfeger?
That's correct.
How old are you, sir?
22.
Bert, I want you to pay careful attention. We're going to go over this scorecard so that you know who the players are in this case.
Gotcha.
Because I have a feeling it's going to be interesting. Who is this young lady?
That is my girlfriend, Sarah Buckley.
What does she have to do with this case?
She is a witness to the harassment, the vandalism to my vehicle, and she's also known the defendant and his daughters for about 5 to 6 years.
How long have you been his girlfriend?
Since November.
So a short-term girlfriend.
Yes.
Mr. Day, these are your 2 daughters.
That's correct.
Your name is?
Samantha.
How old are you, Samantha?
17.
And your name?
Kathleen.
How old are you, Kathleen?
22.
Kathleen, why don't you stand up next to your dad for a minute? Because we're going to get this whole scenario down here. Kathleen, you used to be his girlfriend, is that right?
Yes.
For how long were you his girlfriend?
Almost 4 years.
You have children with him?
2.
How old are your 2 children?
One just turned 3 and one's about 18 months.
Did you live together for a period of time?
Yeah.
For how long?
About 3 of those 4 years.
And how old were you when you started to live with him?
18.
Now you can sit down.
Thank you.
I may come back to you, but right now you can sit. This is what your lawsuit's about, William. According to you, you were being a good Samaritan, and at some point you took in Mr. Day's younger daughter.
That's correct.
Into your home because you say she was having some trouble with her dad.
Both parents, Your Honor.
Both parents?
Yes.
Now, at the time that you took her into your house, were you still living with Kathleen?
No, I wasn't.
So Kathleen wasn't living with you anymore with your 2 children. She had left you. You had parted ways.
Right.
But Samantha came to live with you, and at that time, Samantha was 16.
That's right.
Mr. Day didn't like that.
Not at all, ma'am.
You didn't like what happened with your first daughter,
That's correct.
and you for sure didn't like what happened with your second daughter.
That's very correct.
So what did you do, Mr. Day?
Well, Mr. Shortfigure hit Samantha in the mouth.
After she was living with him?
Yes.
Okay, let's stop there for a moment. What date did your daughter leave your home?
April 13th.
Of 2003?
Yes. It wasn't my home. She was still with her mother at that time.
You and her mother are separated?
Yes.
In any event, this is what your lawsuit is about, William. Your lawsuit says that Mr. Day filed false charges against you for child endangerment, protective orders, causing you to have to hire an attorney, legal fees, and everything that he said about you was false, and you want to be compensated to the tune of $1,954.
That's correct.
Mr. Day, just for good measure, says, well, he wants some money too because you caused him to lose work and attorney's fees because he had to hire an attorney in order to get certain orders reinstated. He wants some money. I think most of what he wants is satisfaction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, William, tell me about when Kathleen left your house with your 2 children.
We were living together until December of 2002, I believe.
And how old were your children at that point?
The one was 3 months, and the other one was a little over 2 years old. Or, I'm sorry, she had not turned 2 yet.
And why did she leave?
We were having problems in our relationship. We've had an on and off relationship for the last 4.5 to 5 years, so...
It was during the odd periods that you had these children?
Yeah.
Was it an amicable breakup?
Pretty much.
And you continue to see the children?
Yes, on a regular basis.
And you continue to support the children?
That's right. I pay child support every week.
For both children?
That's right.
Okay. And where did Kathleen go when she left?
Actually, she stayed in the apartment that we shared.
And you left?
That's right.
So far, is that correct, Kathleen?
No.
Well, why don't you come up here and tell me what happened? Because this is all very important as far as Mr. Day's state of mind when he filed his complaints. When did you and William separate?
December of 2002.
Under what circumstances?
He was sleeping with my sister.
And how did you find that out, Kathleen?
I found notes.
Did you keep the notes?
My mom has them right now.
You get along with your mother?
Yeah.
Should have brought the notes to court.
I know, she won't give them to me. She said it's an embarrassment to our children.
What did the notes say? First of all, who wrote the notes?
He did.
Remember what they said?
It said Samantha down the side. It said sexy, amazing, mind-blowing, awesome, naughty, terrific, hot, and a dream come true.
Did you confront William with the note?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said they wrote it as a joke, together.
And when was that?
About 2 weeks before Christmas, December 2002.
You remember that conversation, William?
Yes, I do.
So you told Kathleen, the mother of your 2 children, that the note that you wrote that talked about sexy, naughty, etc., with regard to her sister, her 16-year-old sister, were just joking around.
Well, I write a lot of poetry. And
joking around?
Yeah.
That's what you told her?
Yeah, I said we wrote it together. Yes.
Oh. Shh, please. You left.
I left for the day, but I stayed in the apartment. I asked him to leave.
And did he leave?
He left after a few days.
And that was in December?
That's correct.
When did Samantha come to live with you, sir?
In April of 2003.
And where were you living at the time?
I just got an apartment, and I had an extra bedroom, so I figured, you know.
How did Samantha know that you had an extra bedroom?
Well, we stayed in contact. Kathleen and I weren't talking at the time, so I used Samantha as a mediator to, you know, see my children and to make sure that they were doing okay.
You said you saw your children regularly, so what do you mean you needed a mediator?
Well, at first, the visitation wasn't every weekend like it is now. Like I said, Kathleen and I weren't on speaking terms at that time.
You weren't on speaking terms because she believed that you were having intimate relations with a 16-year-old sister. That a fair statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You made 2 babies with one of his children, and then his daughter finds out that you're messing around with her 16-year-old sister. The 2 sisters, you know, like you live in Utah.
And later today,
you were together. You went on vacations together. You slept together, intimately involved with each other for all that time.
Right.
Get a life, sir.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Joe Schwartfager says his ex-girlfriend's father, Warren Day, owes for attorney fees and harassment. Warren says after William broke up with Kathleen, he had an affair with her 16-year-old sister.
Now tell me what Mr. Day did with regard to his 16-year-old daughter moving in with you.
Nothing at first. Samantha and Mr. Day weren't on speaking terms when it first happened.
She was living with her mother.
That's right, and she was having problems with her mother. She was, living in and out of her friend's house, running away from her house, not going to school, stuff like that.
Between December and April, did you see Samantha?
We met up a couple times.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
How many times would you estimate you saw Samantha?
About once a week, maybe.
Could it have been twice a week?
It wasn't like everyday basis that she was over at where I was at, but...
I didn't say every day, William. You said once a week. And what I said to you is, could it have been twice a week?
Yeah, it might have been a couple weeks that she came over more than once, yes.
And when she would come over, would she stay for an hour or two?
She'd stay for a couple hours.
And what would you do when she came over?
We'd hang out with the kids, talk about when the next time I get to see them, where we were going to meet to get the kids and everything else, so...
When did Mr. Day file the first of his protective orders?
In July.
You have a copy of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
This paper is also the ruling after the case.
Just a second. So he filed a protective order indicating that in July you hit Samantha in the mouth.
That's right.
July 2003, Samantha. Were you living with William at the time?
Yes.
Did he hit you in the mouth?
Yes.
Under what circumstances?
I came home and him and his friends had been drinking and we got into an argument. At that time, we went into the bedroom. He took me into the bedroom. His friends stayed in the other room and one thing led to another. He actually picked me up, threw me into the table, and that's how I busted my lip open.
So he didn't hit you in the mouth, he picked you up and threw you into a table, which caused you to hurt your lip. And what did you do in July when he did that to you?
Well, we kept fighting. He actually left. I called my friends to come get me because he took my keys and threw them in the dumpster. And he came back and he was being very rude to my friends, and then I left. And then 2 days later, I think, is when they actually filed the protection order.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living with Joe, but I was staying with my friend Stephanie after we got in an argument.
So you were living with him?
Yes.
What kind of an apartment did he have?
It was a 2-bedroom apartment.
Who else lived there?
Just me and him.
Did you have your own bedroom?
No.
Did you share the bedroom with him?
Yes.
For how long?
Ever since we moved in. We actually got the apartment together. He didn't have it when we're together.
You went to court in August of 2003. Do you remember going to court in August of 2003? Yes. Did the judge ask you any questions?
Yes.
Why did you lie to the judge?
Because I thought that I was in love and I was scared. He told me what to say and I said what he said to say.
Had you gone back to him at the time?
We were on a restraining order, so we couldn't see each other, but yeah, we were still together.
Were you speaking to him?
Not during the protection order.
Did you tell your father that you were going to not tell the truth when the judge asked you questions?
Yes.
What did he say?
Not much. He told me I better tell the truth.
Is that right, sir?
That is correct, ma'am.
When your 16-year-old daughter got to court, you didn't tell the truth. Is that right?
That's correct.
And this, William, is what you're really suing over, this case that was dismissed.
Yeah, that's part of the lawsuit, yes.
Tell me what the other part is.
In February, he filed another protective order against me. Samantha had moved out in late October, and I didn't understand why he was...
So she came back to you after this original protective order, and she moved out again in late October?
That's right. She moved back into my house probably about a month after the case, and then she quit her job, stopped going to school, and those were, I told her if she was going to live with me, she had to keep her job, go to school. And then later on, my car got vandalized.
Who do you think vandalized your car, sir?
Samantha. We do have audio tapes that were gone over by the county attorney.
Don't tell me what audio tapes were gone over by anybody else, sir. That's hearsay.
Okay.
Do you have any witness to Samantha vandalizing your car?
Samantha's older sister, Kathleen, she was the one that actually told me that it was Samantha that vandalized my car.
No.
What did you say to him?
I said it wasn't my brother, and it wasn't my sister.
Well, I don't know what you said.
There's a lot of people that hate you, so...
Yeah. I can think of 3 right there. Maybe 4. William, I'm going to tell you a word that you probably don't know. Interestingly enough, Officer Byrd knows this word, because when I say the word, he's going to understand, as will a lot of other people, because I'm going to explain the word to you. The word, William, is chutzpah. Do you know what chutzpah means, Bird?
Sure.
Chutzpah means nerve. You got a lot of nerve to put on a suit and tie, bring your girlfriend into a court to sue this man after you made 2 babies with one of his children irresponsibly. Now, you're only partially responsible for that, but you're half responsible for that. And then his daughter finds out that you're messing around with her 16-year-old sister, and she leaves you. Or you leave. She tells you to leave. And then you invite her 16-year-old sister to move into your house, the 2 sisters, you know, like you live in Utah. And then you have the chutzpah to sue him as a parent for getting angry with you because his daughter tells him, not only am I sleeping with him, but he picked me up, he got angry when he was drinking, threw me against the table, and split my lip.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Joe Schwartfager says his ex-girlfriend's father, Warren Day, owes for attorney fees and harassment. Warren says after William broke up with Kathleen, he had an affair with her 16-year-old sister.
You have a daughter, sir?
Yes, I got 3 daughters.
All right. You have 2 daughters?
3.
3?
Yes.
Who's the 3rd?
My oldest daughter, she's 7, but she's not by the day.
And how old are you, 22?
That's right.
You better get a lock for it.
That's already been fixed, Your Honor.
William, I don't want to look at you for another second. Your case is dismissed. Mr. Day, have you gotten the satisfaction that you wanted?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't need a counterclaim, do you?
No, I don't really know.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's been hard. It's been hard for me not to do something else besides go to court on it. It really has.
I was just trying to get the attorney bills that Mr. Day has racked up on my behalf, you know, cleared up.
This man has been like a dingleberry on my butt.
It didn't destroy any credibility. It's another day.
He doesn't think about other people's feelings, how he hurt me, how he hurt her, and how he's probably going to hurt Sarah, too.
She was like a little sister to me the whole time.
You could talk the panties off a nun.
The girl that's with him right now, Sarah Buckley,
Is my best friend.
and used to live in my house as my 3rd, like, adopted daughter.
So he's on the 3rd one now.
Yeah.
We're actually a lot closer than we were, and we just really hate him now.
Everybody makes mistakes. Yeah, this is her freebie. If she does it again, then it's done.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Nunez versus Channing. Step forward.
Cell phone salesman Ruben Nunez is suing his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old medical technician Tamara Channing, for crashing his SUV.
How old are you, Mr. Nunez?
32.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm in sales.
How long have you been working in sales?
10 years, but I've been with my current company for 7.
You have family?
Yes, I do.
What kind of family do you have?
I am a single parent of a little boy and a little girl.
They live with you?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so you're busy.
I'm currently busy. Yes, I'm always
so
busy.
you have a full-time job?
Yes.
And you take care of 2 kids?
Yes.
The reason I'm asking you these questions, sir, is I'm wondering why you're here. Because your complaint says that 2 years ago you were dating the defendant. She asked if she could borrow your car. She borrowed your car 2 years ago and had an accident. So my question is to myself, do you have nothing else to do in your life? In the 2 years that passed between the crashing of your truck that she had borrowed and now, why didn't you pursue your claim?
Well, Your Honor, she was unemployed, for one. She was going to school, and she just graduated currently in November of 2003.
Yeah?
And she barely got a full-time in February of this year.
Okay. Now, Miss Channing, you borrowed his truck. You had been driving it for a while. You crashed. You had an accident. The accident was your fault. There was some damage to the other car. The other car driver was paid with money that he initially wrote out, but you paid him back, that money. That she paid you back, right?
Yes.
This money you said she didn't pay you back. That was to fix the truck. Now, this was in December of 2002
Right.
that you crashed the car. You weren't living together, were you?
No, we weren't.
But you were dating.
Right.
Now, after December of 2002, did you continue to date?
Yes.
Was your dating relationship a heavy dating relationship?
Yes,
were
it
you heavily
was.
involved?
Yes, we were. We were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Were you intimately involved?
Yes.
And when did that relationship end?
It ended in January of this year.
So between December of 2002 and January of 2004, you were together. You went on vacations together.
Right.
You slept together.
Right.
Intimately involved with each other
Right.
for all that time.
Right.
Get a life, sir. Get a life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me. If somebody owes you money, you pursue that claim immediately. If the relationship hadn't terminated in 2004, you wouldn't be here today. Is that right?
Incorrect.
No, you would not be here today. If the relationship proceeded and you married the defendant, which I assume was your intention and her intention, if you were boyfriend and girlfriend, that it was going to go into a formalized relationship. And if that had happened, we wouldn't be here today. And the only reason you're here today, sir, is because you're annoyed with her, relationship's over. You say, now I want the money from 2 years ago when you had an accident with my car and it cost me $900 to fix it. Get a life, Mr. Nunez. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
26-year-old child care provider Laura Burton is suing her ex-husband, 29-year-old machinist Donald Allen, for the return of her son's belongings. Donald is countersuing for car payments and insurance costs.
It's case number 48 on the calendar in the matter of Burton versus Allen. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have seats.
Miss Burton, when were you and Mr. Allen married?
We got married in April of 2001.
And at the time you were married, you had a child, a boy. Is that right?
I already had him, yes.
From a previous marriage or relationship?
Relationship, yes, ma'am.
And how old was that child when you married Mr. Allen?
9 months.
And where is the father of that child?
He lives in the state of California. At the time, he lived in the state of Utah with me.
Does he support the child? Does he support the child?
Right now, no.
Last year, did he support the child?
Yes.
The year before?
Yes.
And the year before?
Yes.
And how much support was he sending for the child?
He paid $167 a month.
So not much?
Not much.
Not enough to support the child?
No, ma'am.
When you married Mr. Allen, were you working?
Yes, ma'am.
Continually employed?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was watching the baby?
The biological father was watching him.
And that remained throughout your marriage to Mr. Allen, that the biological father was watching the baby while you were working?
At the point when me and Mr. Allen got married, I had put him in daycare.
And you continued to be employed?
There were points that I did become unemployed.
Large stretches of time?
No, maybe the longest stretch were 6 months.
And during that 6-month period, Mr. Allen supported the household?
Yes.
Supported you and your son?
Yes.
Okay. When were you married, Mr. Allen?
April 25th, 1998.
To her?
Yeah.
Why did she say April 2001?
I don't know. My son was born in 97, so.
You mean the baby?
Yeah, the baby.
Is that right?
Yes.
So that you made a mistake. You were
Yes,
married
ma'am.
in 1998?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you separate?
It was the end of August, September of 2002.
And when were you divorced?
October 4th, 2002.
Do you have any children together?
No.
So this is what this case is about. Miss Burton is suing you for the return and or value of property, the child's property, child's clothes, games, sporting equipment, etc., etc. That was at your house. Because even after the divorce, you were exercising visitation with him. You coached his ball league.
Up until problems happened. So.
Whatever it was. But you were involved with him, so you kept some things at your house. Did he sleep at your house
Yes,
occasionally
Your Honor.
during visitation?
He actually lived with us from March until July.
March of what year?
2003.
Why was that?
His mother was unable to find a place to live.
For that 4 months he lived with Mr.
That is
Allen?
incorrect, Your Honor.
How long did he live with Mr. Allen?
Until May.
So he lived with Mr. Allen for 2 months?
Yes, ma'am.
According to you. But since the separation, since you were living together, Mr. Allen has had regular contact with the boy. What's
Yes,
his
ma'am.
name?
His name is Tyler.
And I would assume that Tyler is attached to Mr. Allen.
In a way.
Okay. And your lawsuit wants Mr. Allen to return all of these things. Mr. Allen says, I bought them, and they're staying in my house. I also gather from reading your complaint and his answer that you have decided it's no longer appropriate for Tyler to spend time with Mr. Allen.
It's become unhealthy.
It's become unhealthy because why?
The constant bickering between Mr. Allen and I had told him that it needed to stop. It was becoming unhealthy for everyone in the situation. I gave him a year that I continuously said, we cannot be bickering. We need to stop. Something needs to change.
Bickering about what?
just little things, mainly my son. He was trying to run my household for me. And
who is this person?
This is my current husband, Brian.
When were you married?
We got married in November of 2003.
Tyler is 7 years old?
Yes, ma'am.
And what you're telling me, Miss Burton, is that you have decided to cut off the only constant male relationship in your son's life because you couldn't get along with Mr. Allen.
Not only that I couldn't get along with Mr. Allen, but my son is fearful of this man.
I'm not interested in whether you say your son is fearful. I don't believe it. I don't believe if your son is fearful of him, you let him stay there for 2 months while you were trying to find a new place to live. That's baloney. Don't believe it. Not for a second. Anyway, she stopped all contact. Is that right?
Yes, she did.
And you have this property that you purchased.
Yes. Can I explain something real quick?
Go ahead.
When we were divorced, we agreed to split his stuff for her home and our home. Everything she bought stayed at her house. Everything we bought stayed at our house. And after she got pregnant the first time, she claims that I was going to let her have the baby clothes or use the baby clothes that I got in the divorce that she said I could have.
What do you mean after she became pregnant the first time? What is that?
Well, the first time, because she had a miscarriage about a year ago.
That's with her present husband?
No.
With you?
No.
With who?
Boyfriend at the time, or...
Okay, go ahead.
And then she asked for the clothes when she became pregnant now. And I told her no. And it came to the point where I've done so much.
Mr. Allen, you don't have to explain it to me any further. Mrs. Burton, I don't know how to put this to you. You have one child, you're expecting another. You've got a new husband. Before this new husband, you had a boyfriend with whom you were intimate and got pregnant. I mean, so your life has been up and down, and before that, you had the father of your 7-year-old who you weren't married to. So the only constant that your son has known in 7 years has been this man. When you are a parent, you are not supposed to be a selfish baby.
Ma'am,
I'm speaking. Now, unfortunately, the law does not permit Mr. Allen, who is not related to this child by blood, to seek visitation with him in most jurisdictions. It doesn't mean that he can't sue for custody of this child, because anybody can sue for custody of a child if they believe that the biological parent has so abused or neglected that child as to make it dangerous, emotionally and or physically, for the child to live with that parent. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Which means in most jurisdictions he cannot file for visitation, but if you become a worse mother than I believe that you are, he can file for custody. It is the wrong thing to do to cut off for your son a relationship with this man, which is the only constant he has known for 7 years because of your moving around.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
I was threatened. I mean, he threatened me. You know, if I didn't go back with him, he would...
fantasy.
Mr. Roseberry.
She's on a fantasy.
Mr. Roseberry, are you under the influence of any drug or alcohol at this moment?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Laura Burton says ex-husband Donald Allen owes for the return of her son's belongings. Donald claims Laura owes for car payments.
Now, not only aren't you getting the stuff back, but I'm telling you that you better watch your back, because should you do anything that places this child in either physical or emotional damage, he's going to be there.
Ma'am.
And while you may not consent to visitation because you got your nose out of whack, because I believe what he says when he says, she said to me, I'm going to lay down the rules. If you want to see him, I'm going to tell you what the rules are. That sounds like something you would say. And what you're doing is not considering the best interests of your child. And when you don't do that, you're not being a good parent. You're not getting the property back. He bought it for his stepson to stay at his house. Unfortunately, when the marriage was terminated, so was the relationship, the legal relationship of stepchild, step-parent. That you know.
I know.
That you know. And there were other things, Mr. Allen, that you could have done.
I know.
During the marriage. You could have discussed adopting him. That was a possibility. I don't know whether his biological father would have consented to that or not. The law doesn't keep up with the dynamics of our new world. And our new world is that sometimes children become very attached to their step-parents, and it's very unfair for the biological parent to use that as a sword It's clear to me that there was a time when Mrs. Burton was very, very happy to have you fill in for her son to live with you for either 2 months or 4 months while you were in between residences. That was convenient. It no longer is convenient. I'm sorry. You don't get anything back. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's kind of upsetting. All my son wanted was his personal belongings that are there now.
So many things are put into this little boy's head, like his daddy's abandoned him.
He's the victim. I mean, I have to go home and disappoint him again.
We were best friends. There was no other way around it. Best friends with each other. We did everything together.
I'm thinking of the best interest of my child.
I love you no matter what happens or what anybody says. Your daddy loves you.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Aon Orozco versus Roseberry. Step forward, please.
Retail worker Rosalina Aon Orozco is suing her ex-boyfriend, Assistant Construction Superintendent Louis Roseberry, for slashing the top of her convertible. Louis denies the charge and claims it was probably one of her other boyfriends.
Mr. Orozco, it is your claim that the defendant, who used to be your boyfriend, slashed the top of your convertible because he was angry with you, I guess, for breaking up with him. And that was when?
August 25th of 02.
Mr. Roseberry says that he didn't cause that damage. Where have you been for the last year and a half?
Back and forth. We broke up, and then we'd get back together, and we'd break up again.
So is what you're telling me, after he slashed your car in August of 2002, you got back together again?
About a month.
About a month later?
A month later.
And how long were you together?
For like 13 months.
And while you were together for the 13 months, what did you do with your convertible top?
Well, he damaged my car August the 25th, so I fixed it a month later, and that's when I got with him.
And you were together after that for 13 months?
Oh, no. For 3 months.
You were back together for 3 months?
After that.
Did he live with you? Or
Oh,
did
no.
you live with him?
No.
Well, when you mean you were back...
lived with me.
What do you mean you were back together again?
We went back together because he promised that he'd fix my top, that he was sorry, that he had some kind of issues, that he was going to the anger management classes, and that he was going to get help.
Fine. So that didn't work out after 3 months, and you broke up again.
In December, and that was it. I didn't go back. But I was threatened. I mean, he threatened me. If I didn't go back with him, he would...
fantasy.
Mr. Roseberry.
She's on a fantasy.
Mr. Roseberry, are you under the influence of any drug or alcohol at this moment? I'm
No.
asking you a question.
No, I'm not.
And if you're not, try to maintain a certain amount of decorum because you're in a court. Do you understand?
I understand.
Good. You can drink later. What I don't understand, Mr. Roscoe, is you had a fight with him. According to you, he damaged your car. You went back together. You went out with him. You slept with him. You shared a bed with him. You shared a life with him for 3 months, 4 months, however long it was. According to you, it was August that he did this. A month later, you went back with him. September, October, November, December. So you were back together for 4 months. So what are you bothering the courts for now?
Well, I want him to pay me because he did the damage to my car, and I had to ask my sister for the money to pay for the car. I mean,
how long ago?
When I got it fixed.
When was that?
September.
Show me.
You know, I'm so sorry, Your Honor. It was of 03.
You gotta get your time straight, Mr. Roscoe.
Hang on 1 second. It was August 24th of 03 when he damaged the car, and then a month later is when I went back with him. I mean, I just want him to pay the damage of...
Just a second.
I want him to pay because I seen him do it, and he threatened me, and I broke up with him. We were fighting a night before this incident. We were fighting, arguing from like 7 p.m. to 1 in the morning. I just didn't take his calls anymore. He called me the next day, and he said, okay, fine, if you don't want to be friends, fine, just call me, let me know. So I called him, and I said, you know what, I don't think that this is healthy. We need to not be together. I don't want to have anything to do with you, not even friends.
Perfect. Then you should have sued him the next day. Did you report him to the police?
The day that he did the damages, yes. There was
Let me
a
see the police report. I'd like to see it, please.
I called the police office.
I'd like to see the police report. Don't speak. Just show me the police report.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rosalina Aon Orozco says her ex-boyfriend, Louis Roseberry, slashed her convertible roof. Louis says Rosalina is delusional.
Okay.
Your Honor, can I share something, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, this girl is on a good one. She's hallucinating.
Listen to me.
Here hallucinating.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Just stick to her convertible top.
Okay, well, the convertible top I didn't slash. I didn't have nothing to do with that. As far as I know, she had 6 other boyfriends or something that are probably mad at her for the same reason I was mad at her.
Why were you mad at her, sir?
Because she's lying. She just constantly lies.
So what'd you get back together with her for 4 months? Look at me. Look at me. Tell me why.
Because I like to play around.
So you don't care if she's of good moral character or bad moral character or wrapped too tight or whatever?
She has no morals.
And that didn't bother you?
Well, it did. I have a daughter, you know, that I'm raising, and she...
You're raising a child?
Oh, yeah. I am.
Just a minute. You're raising a child?
She's an angel. She's a perfect angel.
You're raising a child yourself?
No, I have help.
Whose help? Who's helping?
The mothers.
You? What?
The mothers.
They're mothers? You mean you have
No.
one child who have several mothers?
No, my daughter's mom, and her family, and my family.
Do you live with your daughter's mother?
No.
Who does your daughter live with?
We're 50-50 with our child. So she's half with me and half with mom. We don't fight or nothing.
That's
a
wonderful.
different.
That's wonderful. Miss Orozco, get to the convertible top, please, and get there fast. You had a fight. You had a fight the day before.
The next day, he called me and said, fine, if you don't want to be friends, fine, just call me and let me know. So I called him and I said, you know what, this relationship's not healthy. You need help, and no, I don't want to be friends. I want to have nothing to do with you. So I don't remember if he hung up on me or he said, I'm on my way. Either way, I called him numerous of times, but he wouldn't answer the phone.
What'd you call him for?
To tell him not to come to my house.
To stalk me.
Just a second. You called him, you told him you didn't want to have anything to do with him.
Exactly.
Well, he
And
sounded sincere.
And he hung up the phone. You already told him not to have anything to do with him. And then, according to you, you kept calling him? I don't understand why you kept calling him.
Because he hung up the phone, and I knew he would show up at the house because he's done it before. He's tried to break in the
With
house.
love songs on my pager?
He's tried to break in the house before.
I'm not interested in that.
Well, I
don't understand why, if you told me you didn't want to hear from him anymore, you kept calling him on his cell phone.
Because I said, I don't want us to be friends. Nothing. Zero. And then he hung up on me, so I called him because I suspected he was going to show up at the house, and that's exactly what he did. He showed up at the house, he knocked at my window, and he said, come outside, let's talk. And I said, no, I'm not going outside. Please leave. My sister is here. So he kept knocking on the window, and then I said, you know, leave or I'm going to call the cops. And that's when he got really mad, and he said, come outside, I'm going to you up. Excuse me. And I said, no, I'm not. And so I picked up the phone and to call the cops. And I said, you know what, I'm calling the cops, and I'm on the phone with them. And he said, come outside because I'm going to you up and I'm going to your car. So I was on the phone with the police, and I said, you know, my ex-boyfriend's here, and he is outside. He wants to come in the house. Then I looked out the window. No, I looked out the window.
Boyfriends or something.
No.
So blame this one on me.
No, because Your Honor.
What don't you understand? Am I looking at you?
I'm trying to speak mine.
No. I didn't ask you anything.
All right.
I looked out the window, and I seen him. He walked to my car. It was parked in the driveway, and he started slashing my top.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now I want to go forward again.
This guy has issues.
Okay? Now I want to go forward to when you got back together again.
Tissues. It's gonna be crying.
Why? Is this another threat? Is this another threat?
Making up stories, all
No,
kinds.
don't
This girl's a
threaten me.
storyteller.
No.
Like, for real. Damn. Storytelling.
Louis, you know you're lying, so don't come up here and lie.
Your case,
Girl
Ms.
lies like a
Orozco,
rug.
is dismissed. Because when I tell you that you have the absolute right to come into a court, even if you come in late, to file a case, even after you've condoned, as far as I'm concerned, by living with him, staying with him, sleeping with him, touching him, feeling him, letting him touch you for 4 months, you've condoned this slashing incident after it happens, but you still have the right to come in and tell a story. You do not have the right, as far as I'm concerned, to disrespect this court by treating this court as if it was a talk show. Do I make myself clear? Good. Your case is dismissed. Out.
Parties are excused. May step.
22-year-old Crystal Garcia is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old Terrell Johnson, for unpaid rent, money owed, and for filing false charges of domestic violence.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 249 on the calendar in the matter of Garcia versus Johnson.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
All right, you got more complaints against him than I probably have time for today. So we're going to see if we can get through each of the 3 complaints you have against Mr. Johnson, who used to be your boyfriend. Now you claim he owes you for a deposit that you put down on a truck for him, $2,500?
Yes.
That he lived sort of as a freeloader.
Yes.
But there was an understanding that when you got laid off from your teaching position for the summer, he would pay the rent for the summer.
Yes.
And he didn't.
No.
And then you claim that he filed false charges against you for assault, causing you to spend the night in jail and $1,000 bail.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson says the truck was his.
Yes.
He made the payments on it.
Yes.
He says that the charges he made against you to the police were absolutely true. You did, in fact, assault him.
I got a police report, too, Your Honor.
And as far as the rent is concerned, he never promised to pay the rent for the summer. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even living with you in August.
She kicked me out.
I would kick you out if you send me to jail for domestic violence.
Don't speak to him. That's why you're here.
Okay.
All right, Miss Garcia, when did Mr. Johnson move in with you?
Late September of 2006.
What was the financial arrangement?
Well, he didn't have a stable job, and, you know, I did. So I told him, I said, once you get back on your feet, you know, and I'd always, through the months, tell you need to get a better job. You need to get a better job. You need to help me. You need to,
All right, so you need to help me. You need to get a better job. I don't hear a financial arrangement.
Well, I told him, I said, coming June, because we are laid off for the summer, I said, you need to pay June, July, August. I told him that because he would have a job by then. I mean, you would think in 7, 8 months he would have a better job.
So right now you have no financial arrangement with him with regard to rent.
Yes, I did. I told him.
No, you didn't.
I told him that he was responsible for June, July, and August.
I don't care what you told him. That's not a contract.
He didn't want to write one. He didn't want to write one because he doesn't want to sign anything.
You don't have to write one.
He didn't want to sign anything.
Listen to me. You don't have to write one. You have to agree. Just because you told him doesn't make it so.
He agreed.
He moved out.
No, he moved out at the end of July.
She kicked me out.
And I told him he was responsible from June to August.
Okay, good.
And
That's
he
what you
said,
told him.
I agree, and
Let
I
me hear
will
about
help you.
the truck, please.
The truck, the only reason we got the truck was because I was my credit. I'm the main purchaser on it. I have receipts that I paid it.
Show me proof, please, that you put the down payment on the truck.
Well, I have my income taxes stating how much I got, and these are all my pay stubs that I've been working.
I want proof that you put down on the truck $2,500. That's not proof of anything.
They're in the papers that he has in the truck.
Good. Mr. Johnson, look at me. Who put down the down payment?
We both did.
No, he did.
Both did from what? Don't speak.
From a paycheck that I got and her income taxes.
How much did she put in?
Like $2,000.
And how much did you put in?
Like $300.
How much was put down altogether?
$25.
Mr. Johnson, let's not play with me, please. Don't be irritating. I get irritated very easily. The older I get, the shorter the fuse I have, sir. So she put down the down payment of $2,500.
She put down most of it.
She put down the whole down payment of $2,500. Get over. Now, who made the payments on the truck?
We both did, but I made most of them.
Show me.
I don't.
What do you mean you don't?
I mean, I don't got no receipts.
You don't have any receipts? Show me proof that you made the payments on the truck. When did you get the truck? September of '06?
No, we got it in February.
Of '07?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much were the payments each month?
$388.
Good. Now, what are you showing me there?
A printout from the loan place showing that I paid the truck and what
She wasn't
days.
even working at the time.
Listen to me. Does that say you paid for the truck, or does that say somebody paid for the truck?
It says Crystal Garcia.
No. Listen to me very carefully. Is that the loan itself that indicates the loan is in your name?
Yes.
And that the payments were made?
Yes.
I'm not interested in that. I want to see proof from your bank account that $388 came out.
We would go personally to the place because we cannot open a bank account, or we couldn't open a bank account because he has bad bank problems or something. So I didn't have direct deposit for it to come out of my bank account. So I would personally go and pay them cash.
Listen to me. If you think that I believe that story that you just told me, I don't. Show me from your bank that you took out money every month to pay this $388. Not that the loan was paid, but that you took out the money from your bank for.
Okay, the only way I would be able to pay
April,
that or
May.
prove that to you is by you looking over my pay stubs because I made enough money.
I'm not looking over your pay stubs.
Direct deposit. That's the only way I could have got the money from the bank. That's the only way.
Perfect. I'm not accepting that.
Well, I'm not here to ask for the payments for the truck. All I want is a deposit so I can go ahead and have my son and me driving the truck. I don't want the payments.
Fine, you're entitled to your deposit back.
Yes, that's all I want from him.
Fine.
And the money.
Fine. You're entitled to your deposit back. That I believe that you put in. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes.
She gets a deposit back. You have the truck?
Yes.
You're driving the truck?
Yes.
Are you paying for it?
Yes.
Are your payments current?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Nope.
Shh. If she shows me that your payments are not current on this truck, I'm going to wipe up the floor with you.
I paid the last payment last month. I didn't know I should have brought a receipt. I guess she has all the receipts.
I didn't ask you whether you paid last month. I said, are your payments current?
Yes, they are.
So you've made all your payments?
Yes.
Since when?
Since like 3-4 months ago.
Was it 3 months ago or 4?
4.
4. Good. Show me.
He was late, and here are the...
She wasn't even working at the time to even be paying the bills on the truck.
Listen to me. You said you made the last 4 payments, correct?
Correct.
He paid like $300, and then he was late $88.
If you shout out again, I'm throwing you out of here. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Right when he grabbed the keys from my hand, I held onto his shirt because
You were choking.
my property was in there. And the only way for me to protect my and my son's stuff was to hold on.
Ridiculous. You're ridiculous.
And later today,
Where did you go for 3,400 miles?
Well, I went back and forth to work.
Where do you work?
Vanderbilt Security.
In what country?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Crystal Garcia claims ex-boyfriend Terrell Johnson owes for rent, the down payment on a truck, and for filing false charges of domestic abuse.
Okay, now tell me about these false charges that you're charging him with.
Okay. 3 days prior to that day that I was arrested, he was not so nice, and of course I have to look out for my son, so I left. I left and I stayed with my mom. And he was drinking. He would go to my mom demanding the keys, making a big scene.
Demanding the keys to what?
To the truck.
You took the truck?
Yeah, because I wasn't going to let him drive it while he was drinking.
But you didn't have a driver's license.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you
Just
didn't.
a minute. You have a driver's license now?
Yes.
It says in the police report that she don't got a driver's license.
I'd like to see the police report. Anyway, so you went back to the house to get some clothes, and?
And he called me, and he's like, I'm going to go pick up my clothes from the truck. I said, okay, that's fine. So he comes in, like, we don't have no problems. He's trying to sweet-talk me, for me to still be with him. And I'm like, you know what? No, I don't need this for me and my son. I don't need you to be drinking, yelling obscenities to me, calling me names. I don't need that, so I do not want to be with you. And then he demanded, you know what? I want the keys to the truck. And I said, no, you know what I mean? I said, no. I unlocked the truck with the alarm, and I told him, go get your stuff. So we were right outside my door, and he snatched the keys right out of my hands.
Can I say something?
And I was like, you know what? I was like, why you do that? So right when he grabbed the keys from my hands, I held onto his shirt because my baby's car seat.
You were choking.
My property was in there, and that's everything that I have earned, and I'm not going to let somebody go and take it away. So who knows what he's going to do with it? I don't know what he's going to do with it. So the only way at that time for me to protect my and my son's stuff was to hold on. That's it.
Ridiculous. You're ridiculous. Well, the police indicate he was injured.
Where are the pictures you were injured?
The police indicate on the police report where he had scratches on his shoulder.
Those are called stretch marks, not scratches.
Excuse me?
Stretch marks.
Scratches.
Scratches?
She was strangling me.
I was not.
No.
That's why she got arrested. She's crazy.
That part of your complaint, Ms. Garcia, where you're asking for compensation for falsely reporting that you assaulted him, that's denied. You're entitled to your truck money back, period. And once you get your truck money back...
If it was work for the DA to pick up, they would have picked it up, and that would have been... They wouldn't have rejected the case how they did. There was no case
because I didn't press
on
no
him
charges.
to me.
I didn't press no charges.
If I hurt you so bad, why didn't you push charges on me?
Ms. Garcia...
Not even worth it.
Now I'm responding to you. Your case is dismissed. It's over for everything except the $2,500 that you put as a down payment for a truck that he now has. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He left me with a bunch of bills. He was a freeloader.
I think it was fair. I got justice, and I just wanted to stay on my life.
He snatched the keys out of my hands, and my son's stuff is in there, and I'm going to protect it to the fullest.
She jumped on me, started choking me. She wouldn't let go of my T-shirt.
If he would not buy a $5 T-shirt, it would have never ripped.
She's crazy.
I should have realized it a long time ago, but you know what? They say love is blind.
Don't get involved with crazy females.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Miller versus Miller. Step forward.
19-year-old Ashley Miller is suing her aunt, Shauna Miller, for repossessing her car. Shauna claims Ashley didn't abide by the terms of their agreement.
Okay. Very complicated story. Let me see if I can simplify it because it's getting late in the afternoon and I'm getting a little tired. This is your aunt.
Yes, ma'am.
Who did a very nice thing for you several months ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And agreed to purchase a car. She was primarily responsible on the loan. You were a co-signer on the loan because you didn't have good credit.
Yes, ma'am.
You went shopping. You put $1,000 of your hard-earned money down on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And you gave your aunt $1,000 towards insurance.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of car did you buy?
It was a 2007 Hyundai Accent.
And it was brand new?
Yes. Only had 5 miles on it.
And when did you purchase it?
February 8th.
And the understanding was that you were going to make the payments on the car and eventually, hopefully, get the loan out of your aunt's name because she didn't want to be responsible for this thing. And you were going to take care of the car, and there were certain things that you were supposed to be responsible with.
Yes, ma'am, after 6 months.
And your aunt took the car back after 2 months.
Correct.
You want the money that you invested in the car, and you want $600 back for the insurance that wasn't used because she took the car back. So you want back $1,600. Your aunt says that you were irresponsible with the car. In the 2 months that you had the car, you put on how many miles?
3,400.
3,400 miles. Where did you go for 3,400 miles?
Well, I went back and forth to work, and I did go over to my friend's house. I went over to their house because they asked me to come visit them every day. So I tried. I went back and forth to school every day after work because I go to school 4 days a week.
Where do you work?
Vanderbilt Security.
In what country?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Show me it written down someplace that you had a mileage agreement with her.
It was a verbal agreement.
Baloney.
Just like the part with
Baloney.
the insurance.
Don't speak to me anymore.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ashley Miller says her aunt, Shauna Miller, repossessed her car for no good reason. Shauna is countersuing for car repair costs and excess miles on the vehicle.
Now, did you loan the car to anyone?
No, ma'am.
Did you make any long trips?
I did one long trip, and that was to West Virginia.
From where?
From my house.
Which is where?
Maryland.
Who did you go with?
I went with my 2 sisters because they were up here visiting from Florida.
Did they ever drive your car?
No, ma'am.
Was there any damage to the car?
No, ma'am, not when I had it.
When did you take the car back, Miss Miller?
May 4th.
So she had the car 3 months?
Close to, yes.
Why did you take the car back?
Well, one of the agreements was that she was to stay in touch with us. She was not to have anybody in the car. She was on our insurance because the insurance was in excess to what she could afford. So we turned around.
Just a minute. Did you have an agreement with her that there wasn't to be anyone else in the car?
Prior to signing of anything, yes. I've had the same agreements. I've got my daughter here, Sherry, who is under the same agreement with a car that we have. And also with my other children. I have a 30-year-old son and a 28-year-old daughter. I've done it with all of them. You know, with the same agreements. I know, good heart, but you know what? It builds character and shows them responsibility. And yeah, I've been batting.
Did you have an agreement with your aunt not to have anyone else in the car?
No, ma'am.
What was the discussion that you had with regard to having other people in the car?
No, ma'am. The only agreement that we had with the car was not to let anybody drive the car and to make sure I make the payments on the car, and that was it.
Not to let anybody else drive it?
Yes, to drive it. That was it.
I believe you.
That was it.
I believe you.
Thank you.
I believe her. Because I think it's ridiculous to have an agreement that nobody else can be in the car.
Well, okay.
I believe that you made an agreement with her that nobody else was to drive the car.
Well, actually, well, okay.
But not be in the car. That sounds unreasonable for somebody who's making payments on the car, who's given you the down payment and paid for the insurance. The insurance may not cover anybody else driving the car,
right?
But certainly being a passenger in the car. Why not? Keep going. So, she didn't keep in touch with you, and?
She didn't keep in touch, and when I tried to call her, she was avoiding the calls. I had to go through my father-in-law to call her to call back. My husband and I went up to her place of employment to where we looked at the car. There was dents, 4 of them going down this way, not like a car had opened and hit it. The dents were going this way. And
you have pictures of the dents?
Yeah, I do, yes.
I'd like to see the dents that you're talking about.
This is the car. Dents. I've got an estimate also.
No, I don't need an estimate.
Okay, that's the dents.
Those are dings. There's a ding. It's a ding. It's nothing. You had no right to take the car back.
Okay.
So your counterclaim's dismissed because you're counterclaiming. You say you're now stuck with a car.
Hold on, Your Honor.
I didn't ask you anything. You're now stuck with a car that has 3,400 miles on it. It's depreciated. Well, you know, as soon as you drive a car out of a lot, it depreciates. But as long as she was making the payments, was she?
Yes, she was.
And she paid for the insurance?
Yes, she did.
The car looks perfectly good shape to me. It may have a couple of dings on it. That's unfortunate. But that doesn't look as if it's been in an accident. You had no mileage requirements. You have no basis to take the car back. Yes?
We did have mileage requirements, and the reason why she
No,
wasn't
you
allowed
didn't.
Yes, we did. We made an agreement with her.
Show me it written down someplace that you had a mileage agreement with her.
It was to keep the value of the car up.
Show me where you have an agreement with her that you have a mileage agreement.
It was a verbal agreement.
Baloney.
Just like the part with
Baloney.
the insurance.
Baloney.
Until she got it in her own name or her own insurance, she
Baloney.
wasn't
You had no
supposed to have
reason to
anybody
take the
in
car.
it.
Don't speak to me anymore. You had no reason to take the car back.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Are you in a family dispute? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Okay. Unfortunately, Miss Miller, you did a very nice thing for your niece.
I thought so.
You probably had second thoughts about it, but you didn't have a basis to breach the agreement and take the car back. And she's entitled to her money, or you give her the car back. What's your pleasure?
Can I say something
Sure.
real quick? She assured me that no drinking, no partying, and everything else, and she was drinking, and she was partying, but, you know.
Well, show me proof that she was drinking in the car.
Oh, I can't show you
Drinking
proof.
and driving.
No.
So?
Okay.
That's what you need. You need proof. Put your hand down. That's what you need. You need proof.
Okay.
Where's the car now?
In my yard.
You want your car back?
Can I speak?
Yes.
The whole drinking thing has nothing to do with it because I didn't do it when I was driving. And the car they gave to her daughter after they took the car from me. After like a week went by and they called me and told me, asked me if I want the car back. And I said no because they already took the car. And after that, I felt like, you know, since they took it from me once, they would do it again.
Did you get another car?
No.
How many miles are on the car now?
There's quite a bit.
What do you mean quite a bit? There was 3,400 miles when you took it. How many miles are on
Well,
the car
I
now?
drove it back and forth to work myself. And my daughter's driving. Okay.
You owe her $1,600. You had no basis to take the car back.
Can I get her to sign off on this title, or how do I have to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can get her to sign off on the title as soon as you get the bank to release her from the loan. Why would I have her sign the title off until you can get her off on the loan?
Okay, I can, yes.
Okay, so we'll cut an order that as soon as you get her off on the loan, she's going to sign off on the title, right?
Yes,
you don't want
ma'am.
the title in your name?
Nope, ma'am.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $1,600.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Alan Winters is suing his ex-boyfriend, Rolando Conejo, for a truck loan and for assaulting him during a dinner party.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, it's case number 23 on the calendar in the matter of Winters versus Cornejo.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Mr. Winters, you and the defendant were in a relationship for a couple of years, according to what I've read, lived together, and then the relationship ended, unfortunately, unamicably. It is your claim that you loaned the defendant some money to buy a truck.
Yes, ma'am.
And then it is your claim that he assaulted you.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says that he paid for the truck through services.
Correct.
Took care of your home, took care of things for the 2 years that you lived together, also paid money towards your mortgage every month that should be counted towards the truck debt. And this truck debt came about as a result of a loan that he had with someone else that he had been involved with. And when the two of you became involved, you said you don't want any strings attached, so you paid off the truck loan to the other person, thereby making him only beholden to you for this debt.
Yes, ma'am. Your Honor, when I met Alan, he offered, and that was his idea. He said, Rolando, I can help you with this. As long as you take care of the chihuahuas, help me remodeling the house, because...
Just a second. How much did you pay for the truck?
I paid $7,538 for the truck.
And how much did the defendant pay you back?
He, on June 1st, he gave me a check for $3,000.
What was the $3,000 for, sir?
For the truck.
Fine. Leaving a balance of $4,538. Because if he told you to take care of the chihuahuas in exchange for the truck, you wouldn't have given him $3,000. Right?
Right.
It's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel.
He's thinking that's a lot of chihuahuas.
Your Honor.
What?
He also said, if you help me to remodel the house, that would contribute towards the loan. So in my mind, I always understood that, okay, I'm going to take care of the chihuahuas, I'm going to help in remodeling the house.
Just a minute. Forget the chihuahuas. What did you do to remodel the house?
We demolished the back of the house. That was hours of labor. And I also helped him to title a new bathroom and kitchen.
How many hours of labor did you put in the back?
Well, throughout the 2 years, I would say more than 100 hours.
Yes.
Originally, there were 2 loans. And last Tuesday, we went to small claims court in Utah, and he was given financial credit for the work that he did on my house.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. And I have evidence to prove that.
Okay, so that was one loan, but you've already resolved the issue, therefore,
Yes, ma'am.
with regard to any work that he may have done to pay down a loan.
Yes, ma'am.
So why are you bringing it up again? You only get credit for the work once, sir.
I don't know. He's the one that is doing all this right now. And we had a fight the last time, and...
You can only bring up the work once. Now, you want to go into this assault, sir?
Yes, ma'am. On December 1st, 2006, I was having friends over for dinner. I was having Mike and another friend over for dinner. Mike is my witness.
Mr. Winters, this assault happened December 1st, 2006.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you and the defendant separate?
In July of 2006.
Your Honor?
In July, shh, put your hand down, you'll have a chance. So this assault allegedly happened after you separated?
Yes, ma'am. We remained friends.
Fine. December 1st, 2006. I'll hear you.
Okay. He dropped the dogs off because he provided dogcare for me. But the chihuahuas were owned by both of us. So he came over at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, dropped the dogs off, went up to a job interview, came back to my house at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were talking, and I asked him if he was drunk. And he said, no, I'm tired. I haven't been drinking. I knew that he had been drinking, so we went to get groceries because he was cooking Costa Rican dinner for our guests. And on the way to the grocery store, I told him, I said, Rolando, I know you're drunk, and I know you lied to me about it. You don't need to lie to me about being drunk. I knew he was going through a hard time or whatever. So when we got back to the house, it escalated into an argument, and he started to approach me. And the police had already been involved once before, and so I put up my hand and I stopped him. I said, don't come near me. If you come any closer to me, I'm going to call the police. You know that you'll be arrested immediately. So he didn't, and then I said, I want you to leave my house. You're not to stay here for dinner. I don't want this argument to happen in front of friends. And he refused to leave, so he sat on my couch for hours. He said nothing. So I sat on a chair opposite him, and I was reading or whatever. And all of a sudden, he just pops up, and he's very animated, and he said, okay, we need to cook dinner. This was a few hours later. So he starts cooking dinner, and I go in the kitchen, and I'm chopping things up for him. And I told him, I said, you have to promise me that you will not drink anymore tonight, and that you will not argue with me or bring up an argument while my friends are here. And he promised. So Mike and my other friend came to the house, and Rolando was very animated. He was a very gracious host. His dinner was delicious, and we had a really nice dinner. Well, after dinner, we were playing a game called Shut the Box, and it requires each player to have 10 $1 bills. I knew Rolando did not have that money, so I offered to give him 10 $1 bills earlier, and that's one thing that caused an argument earlier because of the money issue. So we were in the front room, and he would come in and out, and he was very pensive, and he would sit and watch us, and then he would disappear. The game becomes very, very rambunctious. We were screaming and yelling and having a good time and laughing. And we were also drinking cocktails. And the next thing we know, Rolando showed up in the living room wearing nothing but my bathrobe. He had gone into my bedroom and taken off all his clothes, and he had his underwear and my bathrobe on. And he came in immediately, started verbally attacking me, and Mike and I watched him, and we didn't comment. We said nothing. My other friend is a person that I also used to date, and so Rolando started to argue with him, and my other friend started to defend me. After a while of hearing Mr. Conejo just scream and yell, the three of us went into the kitchen to get away from him. And so...
And left him?
Yes, ma'am, in the living room. He followed us into the kitchen. He picked up a glass of water, and he went to throw the water on me, but he hit my other friend, who's not here today. And then before I knew it, he was just hitting me in the face. And I have pictures of my face
I'd like to see
to show. I also have a letter from the Victims Resource Center from Salt Lake City. So Mike and my other friend grabbed Mr. Conejo and held him down, but he wouldn't stop fighting. There was blood all over my kitchen. I went into the bathroom to see what my face looked like because I'm a flight attendant. They won't allow me to fly when my face is cut up. And it came to a point, Rolando would not stop. He just would not stop. And so my friend picked him up physically and threw him off my front porch. He landed in a pile in the snow. And my friend wasn't even sure if he was hurt because he landed on a sidewalk in the snow.
He was wearing his bathrobe at the time?
He was wearing my bathrobe at the time. And so a few minutes later, Mr. Conejo once again jumped up and took off. And that's why I didn't call the police.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know he has to have help in order to get rid of this problem. Unless you have a problem too. I don't know if you have a problem too. But he has a problem.
And later today,
how could they be so stupid? What did they see in him? Why would they want to take their hard-earned money and give it to that piece of nothing?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alan Winter says ex-boyfriend Rolando Conejo owes for a truck loan and for assaulting him during a dinner party.
Okay, Mr. Conejo, let me hear what happened on December the 1st, if you remember.
First of all, I want to mention that we were still in our relationship.
Wonderful. What happened on December 1st?
On December 1st,
Tell me how he got all cut up.
On December 1st, he called me and said, Rolando, come over. I want to invite you to have some cocktails to drink. And I went over to drink with him. And then he's like, we can invite some people over to play games. And that was Mike and his other friend. And Alan and me and his other friend, we were drinking. I had been in this relationship for 2 years. It was very dysfunctional. Alan would come from flying, and he would...
I want to hear about December 1st.
Well, we were drinking, and Alan punched me on the face because I told their friends that I had to put this facade pretending that we were in this good relationship. So he punched me in the face because I said that, and then he started attacking me, and we got in this fight. His friend...
May I see the photographs of your face, please?
I don't have a photograph, but I...
He punched you?
He punched me first.
Then did you... I'd like to see the police report.
I don't have one, but this is a pattern that Alan has.
I don't want to hear pattern. I want to hear the police report.
In May, we had a fight.
I don't want to hear May. I want to hear December.
I don't have a report on that.
Where did you go after you ran away?
I didn't run away. He kicked me out of the house.
Where did you go?
I went to John, that is my witness.
John, stand up. John, you have a last name?
Crapo.
Mr. Crapo, you remember December 1st?
I do.
I'd like you to describe the defendant's condition when he came to your house. First, how did he get there?
He said he walked. It's
Fine.
about 3 blocks away.
Then what was he wearing?
A bathrobe.
And how did he appear to you?
Very distraught. He was crying. He was bleeding.
Listen to me. Was he drunk?
Yes. That's it.
Okay. You have a drinking problem, sir? You have an alcohol problem. You know, I've been in the business for a long time. I can tell alcohol problem from a mile away. You have to stop drinking. He may be able to handle it. You can't. You have to stop drinking. Are you living with this gentleman now?
I am.
You know he has to have help in order to get rid of this problem. Unless you have a problem, too. I don't know if you have a problem, too. But he has a problem.
I understand what you're saying.
Have you suggested to him that he get some help for his drinking?
No.
Why not?
I'm not sure it's to that point.
It's that point. He needs help for his drinking. He may be a functioning alcoholic, but he needs help for his drinking.
As does Alan, I believe.
Not the same way.
Okay.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
He just has an anger problem. He has jealousy problems.
It was a very dysfunctional relationship because he would come home with emotional problems, issues, and it was not good.
He definitely has an anger problem and alcohol as well.
Alan is an alcoholic too.
At first I thought he was kidding because this was the first time I've ever seen it.
He was the one that initiated all this, inviting me to drink.
Then I saw it escalate and it was like a wild animal, out of control.
I think he deserved it.
We will never see each other again.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Howlett versus Lloyd. Step forward.
Laura Howlett is suing her ex-boyfriend, William Lloyd, for a loan to pay his taxes. William claims the money was actually a gift.
How old are you, Mr. Lloyd?
38.
What kind of work do you do?
I drive a truck.
How long have you been doing that for a living?
7 years.
Before that, what did you do?
Mechanic, auto mechanic.
Always make a living?
Yes, ma'am.
You have any family?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you have?
2 sons,
How old are they?
18 and 16.
Have you supported them over the years?
Yes, ma'am.
They don't live with you.
No, ma'am.
Pay your taxes?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, this particular occasion, you owe the IRS some money,
Yes, ma'am.
which means at some point you didn't pay all the taxes you were supposed to pay.
Somehow, during my W-2s, my dependents got messed up. That's why I owe taxes.
Well, your dependents didn't get messed up. You've always had only 2 sons, right? They weren't messed up.
No, ma'am. Talk about on the regular taxes you filled at the beginning of the year. I had more dependents on it than what I should have. That's why I owed taxes.
Well, when you had more dependents, where did you get them from?
Ma'am, I only have 2 children.
Right. So how could you have more dependents?
I filled out the paper wrong for my taxes.
Fine. And whose problem was that?
That was mine.
And whose mistake was that?
That was mine.
Whose bad was that?
That was my bad.
Now, Miss Howlett, this is your case.
Yes,
This
ma'am.
used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
And he had this debt to the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
You paid the debt according to the IRS for him.
I did.
And you want him to pay you back. And Mr. Lloyd says it was very nice of you to pay that debt, but it was a gift. You took that upon yourself, and he has no intention of paying you back.
Not at all. No.
So, how long did you know him before you paid this debt?
We started dating in May 2006, and I paid the debt August 24th, 06.
You a working lady?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a dispatcher.
Trucks?
Yes, for a petroleum company.
Is that the trucking company he works for?
No.
No, ma'am.
Mm-mm.
Sorry.
Do you ever watch this program?
I do.
When you watch this program and you see women standing in the position that you're in,
I know.
and you say to yourself, how could they be so stupid? What did they see in him? Why would they want to take their hard-earned money and give it to that piece of nothing? I would never do anything so stupid. Didn't you say that to yourself?
I did, and I'd say it to myself now about myself.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There are certain things that are positive in this life, sir. One is death
And taxes.
and taxes. What kind of pain is there if somebody else pays your taxes? Do not answer me, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Laura Howlett claims ex-boyfriend William Lloyd owes for a loan to pay his taxes.
Okay, so tell me how it came about.
We started dating May 06. We got serious pretty quick. I discussed with him moving in with me when his lease was up September 15th.
Okay.
Yes. He kept getting the bill from the IRS that he had made a payment plan.
He made a payment plan with the IRS?
With the IRS, yes.
What was your payment plan with the IRS?
$100 a month.
That sounds great, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened?
I was making $100 payments a month.
And were you living together at the time?
By the second payment, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry.
And she saw you making this $100 payment.
Yes, ma'am. When I would go over to her house, I would give her $100 cash.
So you would give her $100 in cash?
Yes, ma'am. And then she would pay it over the computer. Just simpler than send it by.
To the IRS?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
good. Go ahead.
And then the third payment, of which we're here for now, for I don't know why, she was on a computer, and I asked her if she would make my payment for me. And she said, yeah, when she got done what she was doing. And so I was sitting on the couch watching TV, so I said, I'll be up in a few minutes, and I'll give you the money. So I watched TV, and I went upstairs and gave her the $100. And I don't know exactly what she said, because I don't want to say verbatim, but she had paid it off, my whole entire balance that I owed the IRS. I never asked her to, I never begged her to, I never even brought it up.
Good. So you had the $100 in your hand.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do with the $100?
I gave her the $100.
Did she take it?
I believe so.
Oh, so she paid the $21.97 to the IRS, and you gave her $100, which she accepted because you were paying her instead of paying the IRS.
Right, for my $100 payments.
Right. Keep going.
After I gave her the $100, I assumed that she made a $100 payment, just like she had done for me before.
Right.
And then turned around and she had paid it off.
So?
I never asked her to, I never...
No. And what happened the next month? Did you give her $100 next month?
No, ma'am.
Did she ask you for it?
That month, I believe I had moved out by that time.
Oh, did you try to give her the $100?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Because I didn't
You gave her the $100 the month before when she had paid off the whole thing, and she took it?
I gave her the $100 before I knew that she had paid off
Yeah,
in
but
full.
sir, then you understood, because she accepted the $100, that instead of her going on her computer every month to pay the IRS, she paid it off, and you would pay her back the $100 a month.
No, ma'am. I paid her $100, assuming that she was making the $100 payment for me.
But she accepted it. Didn't you hear me?
Yes. But I had made the payment after the fact she had told me she had paid it off. If I asked her to pay it off, why would I set up a payment plan with her when I already had it with the IRS? You understand what I'm saying?
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am.
Who screwed up with the IRS?
Most of the people at the IRS.
No. Who screwed up with the people at the IRS? I'm talking to you. Who screwed up with the IRS? Say, I did, Your Honor.
As far as making these payments?
Who screwed up with the IRS?
I did, Your Honor.
That's right. And who owed the IRS money?
I did at the time.
And who was it that spent the money that they didn't pay in taxes that they should have? Who would that be?
That would be me.
Pay your own taxes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Are you the victim of an assault? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Mr. Lloyd.
Yes, ma'am.
You do a crime, you pay your own penalty. You owe the IRS money. There are certain things that are positive in this life, sir. One is death.
And taxes.
And taxes. Everybody has to pay it. What kind of pain is there if somebody else pays your taxes? Do not answer me, sir. If you get away without paying your taxes, sir, by saying, well, she paid it off, so I don't have to pay the IRS back $100 a month until they're all paid off, what lesson does that teach you? What lesson does that teach you?
That you shouldn't let nobody else try to do a favor for you and pay your own bills. I never asked her to do this.
Are you paying careful attention to me, Mr.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Lloyd? You don't ask somebody to do your prison time for you, and you don't ask somebody else to pay your taxes for you. And if they do so because you had a payment plan with the IRS, and somebody says, look, I'm going to be a nice person, instead of us going through this drill every month, you give me the $100, which she took, clearly, when she paid off the whole bill, in anticipation of every month you paying her $100. Instead, you moved out. You owe her $2,097 because you paid the $100. Goodbye. Listen to me. Watch better next time.
I will. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next, Judge Harris is suing her former daughter-in-law, Michelle Johnson, for the cost of airline tickets, wedding expenses, and the return of a family heirloom.
All rise. Your Honor, case number 263 on the calendar in the matter of Harris versus Johnson.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Harris, this is your former daughter-in-law. She was married to your son for a very short time, and it is your claim that she owes you some money. She owes you money for airline tickets that you claim you bought with money that was a loan to her to bring her family to see you over a Christmas holiday. You claim she owes you for some wedding expenses that you paid for, and you expected her to pay you back. And you claim that she owes you for one final thing, and that is for some family heirlooms that you gave to her in anticipation of her being your daughter-in-law for a very long time.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson says that these were all gifts. She never intended to pay you back. There was never any discussion of paying you back for the items that you purchased for her. And you're just angry that she divorced your son and married somebody else. You did remarry.
Yes.
When were you married to, I assume, this gentleman? This is your son?
This is my son. I was legally married to Ethan on January 10th of 07.
And when did you separate from him?
January 25th, I believe, is when he moved out.
Why?
Because he did not want to get a job. He didn't want to pay rent. He didn't want to help with any of the household expenses.
You mean you found this out in 15 days?
Well,
Miss Johnson, you got married in January 10th. January 25th, 15 days later, it was over.
Yes.
Strange. Okay, tell me about the airline tickets, which is what you're complaining about first, Ms. Harris.
The airline tickets to bring Shelley and her daughters for Christmas. I flew them down.
From where?
I flew them from Denver to Las Vegas so they could come and spend Christmas with me.
You have daughters?
Yes.
How many?
2.
So you wanted her to come down and spend Christmas with you?
Yes.
With your son?
Yes.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Shelley had no money for airline tickets, and I was asked if I would purchase them, and I would be paid back.
Who told you that you were going to be paid back?
Shelley.
No, she didn't. That sounds ridiculous, Miss Harris. You never told you were going to pay her back for the airline tickets?
No, that was an agreement with her son.
Of course not. You wanted your son to come to your house for Christmas. So you said, I'll send you airline tickets. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out, Miss Harris. Right? Of course. I have children. If I want my children to come and spend Thanksgiving or Christmas with me, you know, and they don't have money, I say, I'll send you the tickets. So, move on. I don't believe you that she said she was going to pay you back. What's next?
Okay. Starting with August 14th, my son discovered that Shelley had remarried on February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Okay.
Their marriage was not annulled until May.
Okay.
They were still living as man and wife.
Okay. Would you tell me what it is that you claim she owes you money for? I'm not the moral police.
Okay. At that time, I told them that I would help out paying for a formal wedding and a reception to be held on May 26th. At that time, after discovering that Shelley had committed bigamy by marrying a man on Valentine's Day, February 14th.
Just a second. You said they were married January 10th, 2007.
Correct.
And then they were supposed to have a reception in May.
Correct.
But they were no longer living together in May of 07.
That's correct.
And you paid for what?
I paid for all wedding expenses.
And?
And I was told that I would be repaid for this. However, after...
Who told you that?
Shelley. It was an agreement that I would be paid back. And after discovering that Shelley married a man while she was still married to my son, I feel she is not entitled to anything.
Just a second. I know what you feel. When did you plan this wedding and make the payments that you're complaining about?
In
what
December.
Month? In December. So you made certain outlays of money.
Correct.
Had your son ever been married before?
No.
Had you been married before?
Yes, ma'am.
So you wanted to make a wedding. Where was the wedding supposed to be?
In my hometown.
In your hometown, for your family and friends.
That's...
Because your son was never married before.
That's correct.
So you said, I'll make the wedding. Miss Tarras, we know where it's going, my dear. That's what you do. You didn't expect her to pay for the wedding. She's got 2 children that she's, I assume, supporting, that they live with her. She wasn't going to make the wedding. You wanted to make the wedding in Las Vegas, where you live, where your son grew up, where you have family and friends, and you said, I'll pay for the wedding. You put down a deposit on a hall, you put down deposit on invitations, and whatever you did. The formal marriage didn't work out, and nothing came of the May event because they were already separated for 5 months by the time May rolled around. So, doesn't work out, doesn't work out. Would have been no difference if they got married January 10th and you paid for the wedding in January, and that was the formal wedding, and they separated 15 days later. You don't get your money back from her. What do you want?
I'd like to add something, Your Honor.
Go.
Amen. I moved out of the apartment on February 20th of 2007. Shelley's second ex-husband, she found out ungratefully, had died, had passed away on December 1st. Shelley was having a very hard time grieving with this. And I can remember multiple times her waking up in the middle of the night telling me how much Chris was a better man than me.
Listen, does this have some relevance to your mother's lawsuit, or you just want a cathartic event? What does that have to do? Mr. Tarras, listen to me very carefully.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand you were hurt. However, you are a very lucky man. Very lucky. Because you were about to take on a responsibility of a woman who's a little nutty. There's no question she's a nut. Because she had 2 girls, and she gave up what appears to be a perfectly reasonable guy with a perfectly reasonable family, and married somebody, according to you, who's in prison.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's nutty. So, finding that out now, before you do something stupid like make a baby with her so that you're tied to her forever, you should go like this and say, thank you very much. If it only cost me a few $1,000s to get rid of this nut, it's a bargain. It's the bargain of the century. Do you understand, Mr. Tarras?
Yes, ma'am.
Your mother should understand that, too.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I've made more than 5 weddings because we had a couple of doubles in there. I know what it's like. None of my children ever paid me back for weddings. Get over it, Miss Tarras. Now move on.
And later today,
This apartment is a pigsty. Don't you clean?
I don't live like a pig, Your Honor.
How did these holes get in the wall?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Tarras says her ex-daughter-in-law, Miss Shelley Johnson, owes for airline tickets, wedding expenses, and the return of a family heirloom. Sandra claims Miss Shelley is a bigamist.
Now, I understand you were hurt. You'll find somebody else, uncomplicated, and Do yourself a favor. How old are you?
25, ma'am.
25. Pick somebody without baggage.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Now sit.
I am, ma'am.
What's next?
Your Honor, due to her committing bigamy.
It's over. She never promised to pay you for the wedding. Move on.
Well, she did on.
No, she did not.
Okay.
No, that's a fib. I don't like fibbers. I have 5 children. I've made more than 5 weddings because we had a couple of doubles in there. I know what it's like. None of my children ever paid me back for weddings. Do you understand? Even when the marriage didn't work out. Get over it, Miss Tarras. Now move on.
Okay. Well, just the bigamy charges. She marries another man while they're still married. That concerns me.
It may concern you, madam. I am not a criminal court judge. You want to notify the district attorney that she committed bigamy? Go with good luck and go with my blessing. Get on to what I'm here about. The last part of your lawsuit, which is items that you claim you gave her, family heirlooms that you want back.
Yes, my mother makes hand-sewn quilts for all the new granddaughters that are marrying her grandsons. My family is requesting that returned due to Shelley obviously not having any interest in them since she married a man a month after marrying my son.
Well, you're not entitled to that, Miss Tarras, unless Miss Johnson wants to give it back to you. Do you have that quilt?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Would you like to give it back to Miss Tarras? She would like it back.
I can send it back to her grandmother.
Fine. Perfect. What else?
The diamond necklace that I would like returned.
No, you don't get that back.
Okay. I bought that as a daughter-in-law, but...
Good. She was your daughter-in-law for about 15 days. Keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep going.
The expenses for the wedding.
I already told you. She owes you absolutely nothing. She's being gracious in returning a quilt that you say was made by a family member that you want back in the family. And that's only her being gracious to return that to you. So you're not entitled to anything else, Miss Tarras. I'll prepare an order with regard to the quilt. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This is the woman that I trusted and I loved with all my heart, and I can't believe she did this to me and my family.
I'd rather be alone and, you know, be married to the right person than to be married to the wrong person.
It's a felony in the state of Colorado. We've already checked it out. So we will be pursuing that.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Jacobs versus Nelson Ankhorn. Step forward, please.
Gazina Jacobs is suing her former tenants, Benjamin Nelson and his girlfriend, Vanessa Ankhorn, for rent, utility bills, and for severely damaging her rental property.
Ms. Jacobs, you rented a unit that you had, apartment.
Yes.
To the defendants. They were referred to you by a neighbor. According to your complaint, you had to evict them. They owed you rent. You want your rent. You want the damage that they did to your apartment, which you say was substantial. Mr. Nelson and Ms. Eichhorn say you owe them money. You kept their security deposit. They did not cause any damage to the unit. They were current in their rent until you shut off their electricity and their power, and they have a counterclaim. What kind of work do you do, Mr. Nelson?
I'm a handyman, mechanic, painter. I do a lot of things.
Do you work for anybody or you work for yourself?
I work for myself.
And what do you do?
I'm a hostess.
It's just the two of you in the unit? And how much was the rent?
$9.60 a month, plus electric and gas.
Which you were supposed to pay for yourself.
Yes.
When did you move in?
I believe it was September of '06.
When did they move in?
They moved in at the end of January of '07, and the lease agreement started 1st of February of '07.
I don't think that's right. We
Can I
lived
see
there
the
longer
lease,
than that.
please?
I have the lease agreement.
Are you on any prescribed medication, Mr. Nelson?
No.
You moved in February of '07, sir, not in September of '06. Okay. So, first let's start with the question of utilities. According to your answer, you say she agreed to rent us the unit and we signed the lease for $9.60 a month, including utilities. Now you say you were supposed to pay your own utilities.
Electric and gas, yes.
You were supposed to pay your own utilities. Did you put them in your name?
Right before we got evicted.
Eventually we had to.
What do you mean eventually you had to? You had to when you moved in February.
Well, they were in her name up until then because it was part of the agreement that our utilities would be included in the $9.60 rent.
Not according to him.
According to this evidence in these papers, that's what it was. It was in her name for a long time.
Well, it was, of course. It had to be in somebody's name.
Yes, and until she got it, she turned it off without notice.
Just a second. Were you supposed to pay the utilities?
Yes.
Why didn't you put the utilities in your name starting in February?
Because that wasn't part of the agreement that we had.
Of course it was.
We didn't have the money at the time.
That may be an answer.
So we agreed to do it when we had the money.
Yeah. Just a second. When did you have the money?
I believe it was in April or May.
By April, she had already turned off the utilities.
That's when we got it in our name.
Because you didn't pay them. When did you move out?
We moved out around the beginning of June, around June 10th.
June 9th was our last day.
So you owe her rent for February, March, April, May, and June. 5 months.
No,
that is not true.
We've paid her up until like the last 2 months before we moved out.
I'm telling you that that's what you owe her.
Okay.
Show me that you paid 5 months' rent. If you didn't give her rent for 5 months, tell me when you stopped paying her rent.
I always brought her cash. I stopped paying her rent on about end of April. I stopped paying rent because I didn't have the money because I lost my job.
All right, fine. So far, you owe her $1,150 in rent, and you didn't pay the utilities for February, March, and April. I assume that they paid them in May because then they had to put them in their own name. At least
yes,
you were
exactly.
off the hook. So how much did they owe you for utilities?
Utilities is, I got the receipts right here, $767.69.
Now, you have pictures of the damage to the apartment?
I sure do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
There's several sets of pictures. I also have a list from the repair person and the checks that I did pay a person to repair the $4,000 worth of damages.
How did these holes get in the wall?
That was a prior roommate.
Whose roommate?
Ours. A bad selection of a roommate.
Well, you owe her for this damage.
Yes, I believe we do. We're responsible because...
You are. It's your roommate. Go find your roommate.
I'm putting in a small claim right now.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That master bedroom, I know it was their bedroom, and right below those holes was their mattress. So, yeah, you can see her head there,
Your
right
Honor,
where he...
That is untrue. She's made a lot of allegations about us, about him doing bad things to hurt me, a lot of why reason why those holes are in our walls.
When was the last time the police were called to any residence where you have ever lived for domestic violence?
Never. Just this once. If she'd called.
Just a second. When in any of your residences were the police called on a complaint of domestic violence?
None that we know of.
She just said once.
Well, no, we believe that's what she called about.
Yeah.
Because they showed up, but nothing was ever done about it because nothing was wrong.
They showed up at the residence because they were looking for him.
This apartment is a pigsty. Don't you clean?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we had a roommate that came in while we were at work and damaged a lot of
It's
stuff.
filthy. That doesn't happen from a messy roommate. That happens from people who live like pigs.
I don't live like a pig, Your Honor.
Well, you did. I never saw a place so filthy.
I had to go through my house in 2 days' time, and I had to pretty much tear everything apart that I had and find what was sentimental to me, pack it up, and then start throwing a lot of my things away.
Should have paid your rent.
Your Honor.
You should have paid your rent. That's what happens when you don't pay rent or utilities.
We'd agreed to start paying it off. We'd actually started paying it off. And
Listen, she's not your mother.
I know.
She's your landlord. The first thing that you did was you moved into the apartment. You were supposed to put the utilities in your name. You didn't. Then you have a counterclaim that she had no right to turn off the utilities because she got tired of paying $767 for your utilities. Well, then you had no choice, but you put them in your name. At least she's off the hook. I don't know whether you stiffed the utility company or not. I assume you did. Now, then you leave an apartment like a pigsty and you blame it on a roommate. Well, so far it's everybody's fault but yours. Everybody else is wrong. She's wrong.
I'm taking responsibility since it was my roommate. I have to.
I don't necessarily think it was your roommate, sir. I don't necessarily think it was your roommate. I don't believe necessarily it was your roommate just because you say it. Do you understand?
Oh, I understand.
Good. I'm glad you do. Okay, so far you owe her $19.17 just for your rent and the utilities.
And that's the detailed list of what was repaired?
Nothing was repaired, Your Honor, except for the holes in the walls, because I live right next to that place, and so does my neighbor, and she happens to walk by and she sees our things are still being used. A refrigerator that she said was damaged that we need to pay for to replace, still being used. It was like that before we moved in.
Show them these pictures, please.
The refrigerator was not repaired, and the refrigerator I'm not suing for. I'm just suing for the repairs Mr. Bean did on my rental unit.
Your Honor, I was going through all these items. That's why it looks like a pigsty like this.
Hey, just take a look at the toilet. The toilet isn't going through the items. That toilet hasn't been cleaned, it looks like, in 6 months. You owe $5,000 for your cleanup, for your rent, and for your utilities. Now, give me 30 seconds or less on your counterclaim. Let's go!
We don't believe we owe her because nothing was fixed before we even moved in.
Forget it. Next.
All of our stuff that was in the house, she told us we would have 2 days, and we had nowhere to go.
Why didn't you get your stuff out?
We stayed up all night trying to get our stuff out.
We had
but
2
we had a
days
house
time
full of
to do
stuff,
it.
so we got out what we could.
Did you pay rent in June?
I was giving her a couple hundred every week.
Did you pay rent in June?
Not in full, no.
Counterclaim's dismissed. You owe $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.